enterprise. And therefore, when he issued that directive, this is why we had to ask that question. Did he issue it as a citizen of the country seeking help? And if that was the case, he should have gone, as PRECA would say, any amount, PRECA 34, subsection 1, any amount over 100,000 that has been stolen must be reported to a DPCI office, which was not done, which then draws us to the second issue, that he acted in conflict towards his personal capacity, using his influence so that a private matter must be without being reported, investigated by public officials. So it is from that perspective that we say that this finding is critical, but this finding is also saying that the one who instructed Rode is as guilty of a crime, because in the first place, he was the one who bears the burden of reporting the matter, as according to PRECA 34, subsection 4E.
Okay. In terms of what you're saying about guilty, interestingly enough, in terms of what we've now uncovered, it has a lot more to do with procedures than individual people. And in fact, the processes and procedures are, let's call it, in the dock more than anything else. Having said that, and I mean, as it stands right now, there's no guilt or innocence finding today specifically, right? Nobody's been found guilty and nobody's been cleared of innocence, including, for example, the president. Having said that, your press release is still very critical of the president and calling for his impeachment. Tell me more.
Oh yes, most definitely. When you, though the report, someone may want to take it for a review, for instance, but from what we have in front of us, there is reason enough to say that there was a concealment of a crime. Now, if you look at the independent panel, the Section 89 independent panel, and the 4 issues which were raised and that spoke to issues of prima facie evidence of the president having something to answer for and come to this, you would see that there is, to a certain extent, a correlation that speaks to this issue of a concealment of a crime. And with this individual who is the owner and an individual who gave the directive cannot be exempted from the findings of both the Section 89 independent panel, whose report has not been refuted even now. It was just quashed by Parliament, but the merits and demerits of that 5 million rand document have not been disputed anyway. Plus this one now, it is on the basis of that we say a president who, as according to what is revealed in front of us, has gone out of his way to evade being accountable to the people of this country, does not deserve to be at the helm of the leadership of this country.
All right, just so that we're clear, when you say evade, why are you so clear that the president has gone out of his way to evade the investigation? What did he do or not do?
The first thing, which was the simplest one, there is a break-in, report the matter. There is a break-in if the matter is of high security. It has to be treated as confidential. At least the national police must know. The reports that we have now do not speak to anything that speaks to that. At the very first instant, that should have been done. Now, going to issues secretly and creating a parallel army, using that word loosely, to actually investigate, though there are institutions that are there, those are some of the things that point to what we are raising right now, which is a concern for us, because all of those things are at the directive of a man who, at a sound of the alarm, could have even the army protecting him. But he actually left all of those things and created parallel structures that are illegal to pursue that. For us as the African Transformation Movement, it says the length of evading going through the right procedures and processes speaks to concealment.
I mean, you may echo the views of many people that it's not just about a theft on the farm, but it is about the rule of law and whether that's been applied equally. So therefore, to conclude, go back to your point about impeachment. One thing is calling for an impeachment. The other is being able to follow through. Do you think that can happen?
As we speak right now, the African Transformation Movement has written to the Speaker of Parliament calling for the institution of a Section 89 impeachment process. If we remember well, the 2024 elections, as expressed by the millions of voters in the Republic of South Africa, there is no longer one individual who carries a 50+1 majority. And if we were to go back when we had an opportunity to vote on this particular report, which is the Section 89 independent panel report, even though a two-member party had sponsored that motion, but over 168 individuals voted in favor of the impeachment proceedings to actually move forward. Now, with an ANC that is almost under 40%, it is not going to be as difficult as it was back in the days. Yes, you have the GNU and all, but do you want your party to be mad and smeared by issues of an individual who's evading being accountable to the country? There is definitely an opportunity right now, and it needs us as South Africans to come together and call a spade a spade.
And that's where we can leave it. A spade is where we end. Zama Ntshona, the African Transformation Movement Party's spokesperson. Thank you for that. Of course, we'll get reaction. We'll get another legal reaction on that coming up just now. But of course, there's you. You can react. You, whoever you may be, wherever you are around the country, around the world, listening in on radio, listening on streaming live. Of course, you have an opinion. So let's hear it from you. So how do you do that? You can call in live. Because I'll open the lines now, 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp, text or voice note, 0614 104 107. And talking about the ANC, because there may be a response from them too, they having their own issues with regarding the ANC SACP in the run-up to the election. We'll get comment on that as well. This is the National Pulse.
It's Elimination Week on Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7. The bottom 4 duos face their toughest challenge yet, a mystery box breakfast that could send them home. With ingredients revealed on the spot and pressure mounting, teamwork and quick thinking are everything. Only the strongest duos will survive. Who will survive to cook another day? Find out on Color Your Plate, Sundays at 7. Repeat Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. only on SABC 2.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Well, what about that Nigerian Igbo story? We'll talk about that just now, but I want to get your thoughts first on Anonymous on the line. Hi, Anonymous.
Ashraf, afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, good indeed. What's your point?
Ashraf, Pala Pala review case was heard in November 2024, right? Judgment was reserved in November 2024. We are in 2026 in April, and there is still no judgment, right? And the interesting thing, I don't hear any noise from any quarters about that. It's just silent. That's number one.
But when you say you don't hear any, there's not a day that goes by without a political party on the one hand, but even someone like yourself talking about it. So there is noise, there's concern about it.
Not really. If there was noise, then you most probably hear from KSAC, you hear from Freedom Under Law, you hear from Katrada Foundation. You hear from them. In fact, they would have gone to court for the judgment.
Who would you like to hear from?
The ones I just mentioned. Katrada Foundation, your NGOs, Freedom Under Law, they would have gone to court to say that you must release it.
Okay, right. And then was there something else you wanted to add to that?
The second one is, it's the question that I think no one has asked is Pala Pala registered to trade in foreign currency? No one has asked that question. Is it registered or authorized to trade in foreign currency? I just want to know.
Okay, got that. That point is noted. And it's a very interesting point. My gut feeling about it, well, if it was, they would have come back very quickly and said, actually that's all sorted out. That's what we do as a business. That's clearly not the case. But points taken, Anonymous in Kabeja. Thank you for that. Right, let's talk about Nigeria and South Africa and that link around the coronation after this.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Right, with me now we have Dr. ABC Okoko, the president of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo, South Africa. And the reason we're talking to them, or to the president in this case here, is the organization, the Igbo Social Cultural Organization, has banned, listen to this one, the crowning of Eze Ndigbo, the king of the Igbos. You know, that story certainly was pretty controversial a couple of weeks back, right? But the banning is in foreign countries following violent protests, as you know, that erupted a couple of weeks back, right? Let's find out more about it with Dr. Okoko. Time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good day, listeners, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Help us understand, the complexities here. Why the need to ban the crowning of the king of the Igbos in not just South Africa, but I understand foreign countries?
Okay, the context is that Ohanaeze as a body does not back anything illegality. And this is not the first time they have mentioned that. Right from the time we all know, we in Ohanaeze and Ohanaeze leadership, we know that we don't crown or install a king outside our homeland, which is Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Putting it in context in terms of what happened in South Africa, which have always maintained, we never crowned any king here. We did not install a king. In fact, what we did was more or less a nominal observance, in the sense that the person in question was not actually given a legal backing in terms of the duties of a king, even if it was misrepresented as being crowned a king. That was not the case. And I've also come to the radio and maybe television to explain exactly what happened. So why actually now you can also hear this from our mother body is that they are consistent in terms of what they think is good and right for our people.
All right, so I hear that you're saying you wouldn't do anything illegal, which means you do concede that act that took place in the Eastern Cape in South Africa fairly recently was an illegal act, certainly from your perspective, yeah?
No, it wasn't about legality, because in the first place, that particular thing that happened in Eastern Cape has no legal backing, which we know if you have to install a king or crown a traditional leader in South Africa, there are provisions in the law that must be followed. And what happened in case of East London, what we had there was a nominal observance. It wasn't something like we thought or people have conceived, because the moment they hear the term Igwe, they think it's the same as king. And if you hear what Ohanaeze have said, they said Eze Igbo in diaspora, Eze Ndigbo. We can always go into that and look at it. It can be seen as semantics, but what I'm trying to say in essence is that we have already mentioned and we have already maintained that, yes, of course, people might have misrepresented or misunderstood what happened. And that's the essence of coming also to the media to clear the air, because it was a misunderstanding that led to that bad outcome.
Why do you say it's a misunderstanding, as opposed to a group of people, followers in South Africa who deliberately went on doing what they did? I mean, it wasn't like just by the way a chance thing. I mean, it was a planned coronation of sorts. So why would you say it's a misunderstanding?
Just like you have just said now, it's not a planned coronation. In fact, that was a private event. The unfortunate thing that it went viral. It was not controlled. It's supposed not to be a public kind of spectacle. What happened actually was people presenting things not the way they are, because even before they made that move, I made a speech and said, we are not here to install a king, and we are not here to create a kingdom. Those things are there. You can go and verify. So, but what I'm trying to say in essence is, even when people see something that is similar, they might at the same time think it's identical. So in that case, that is why it seemed as if that thing was a coronation. It wasn't a coronation. To me, we decorated one of our own just for cultural kind of gathering, which is a private event.
All right.
Not necessarily we are going to install, because if we want to install, we have to take permission from the king or from the government.
Okay,
Because
I get that. Why don't you think there's been a need for you to publicly state, when I say your Ohanaeze in the Igbo worldwide, to issue a public statement saying that the crowning of the Eze in the Igbo, king of the Igbos in foreign countries is banned? Why did you feel there was a need for that?
No, this is not the first time Ohanaeze as a body have mentioned that. In fact, even, let me be honest with you, on 2nd of April, our mother body publicity secretary, he also tried to explain that they distance themselves from anything installation or crowning of Eze, which is what we have been known for. I mean, that's our position. It has not shifted. So why now you are hearing this again, just like we are talking about, is because there's now a joint kind of statement between Ohanaeze Ndigbo and the federal government of the Republic of Nigeria. That's why it came out as a news again.
Okay, just to conclude then, do you think therefore, not just in South Africa but in other parts of the Nigerian diaspora, that groups of people would actually adhere to this? Is this banning?
Of course, you see, this is a direction. In fact, it's supposed to be a directive. So what happened is that if we say we are law-abiding and there is a collective decision to say we don't need to do this, we must abide by that decision. So going outside it is as if we are being, the person is being disobedient or trying to show something else. So, but in terms of how things run or how organizations run, you follow whatever directives are come. But to be honest with you, the thing that happened in South Africa is not even what they are talking about now, because they are just giving a directive, a declaration of a stand they have taken. Long time. This is not the first time they have mentioned that.
All right. Let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time, Dr. ABC Okoko, the president of the Ohanaeze in the Igbo, South Africa. They having issued a statement banning the crowning of the Eze in Igbo, king of the Igbos here. So that's interesting. You, of course, may have your own thoughts, and I'd like to hear from you, of course. Reaction always welcome. Let's get the news headlines. It's 3:30. Here's Jelani.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. Making headlines. Starting with breaking news, South African Airways CEO Professor John Lamola has resigned from his position. Lamola first joined the organisation in July 2021 as a non-executive director and chairperson of the board before assuming the role of GCO in May 2022. The Eastern Cape Health Department says an unprotected strike at the Dora Nginza Hospital and Motherwell Community Health Centre in Gqeberha has led to the disruption of services. It says the strike is also putting the lives of patients at risk. And finally, the fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran is under growing pressure a day before the two sides are expected to hold talks in Pakistan. I will have details on these and other stories at 4 o'clock.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right, to me, I have no doubt that the two oceans that make up the Cape Peninsula is top of the agenda because of the two oceans.
Yeah, all eyes will be on two oceans this weekend. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, more than 30,000 runners are expected to hit the road in Two Oceans Marathon this weekend in Cape Town. On the lead side, all eyes will be on Gerda Steyn, who's aiming for an incredible 7th title in the women's race. In the men's race, defending champion Bennett Siloyi will also try to hold his own crown, but he faces strong competition from Stephen Mokoka, who is hoping to reclaim the top spot. Now, the ultra marathon is tomorrow and half marathon is on Sunday, and race director Stuart Mann says that splitting the marathons has allowed more runners to take part. We actually have a producer from SAFM, by the name of Marumo Kekana. I do believe that Bridget spoke to him earlier on. He'll be taking part in the ultra marathon, so good luck to him. In terms of rugby, Springbok 7 speedster Kieran Nortje says that he's ready for the cauldron of Hong Kong as the Blitzboks prepare for the HSBC Sevens World Championship. South Africa face Uruguay, Spain, and Argentina in Pool A at Kai-Tak Sports Park. Now, Norgia, back in the squad after injury setbacks, believes the intensity of Stellenbosch training has prepared him for the challenge. In terms of football, CAF President Patrice Motsepe says that the drop in match officiating standards at the recent Africa Cup of Nations could be linked to the discontinuation of elite professional refereeing panel. Now, one of the reasons for the successful implementation of the video assistant referee at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire was the program to professionalize referees, which has since been discontinued. And speaking during yesterday's visit to Morocco as part of the efforts to mediate the fallout between them and Senegal, Motsepe says that the events of the AFCON final point to the need for the panel.
My brother Fauzi was discussing with me this morning something that we discussed quite some time ago. We started an excellent partnership with FIFA to professionalize African referees. And it made them, it improved their skills and expertise and made them world class. And Gianni Infantino played an important role from FIFA and we did it from CAF. And that process was stopped. I didn't know about it. And I asked Gianni, why was this thing stopped? He says, I didn't even know myself it was stopped. But this is one of the issues that the chairman of the referees committee raised when he came to give us a report, because the CAF Exco asked him to give us a report. Give us a report of the assessment of the performance of the referee and the VAR on the day of the final match of the Total Energies CAF AFCON Morocco 2025.
Meanwhile, the race for the Betway Premiership title is heating up and it's going right down to the wire. As we know, defending champions Mamelodi Sundowns are still leading the charge, chasing yet another title, but the tough matches and continental commitments are putting pressure on the side. And this weekend, it's continental duty for the Brazilians. They face ES Tunis on Sunday in the first leg of the CAF Champions League semi-final. And hot on their heels are Orlando Pirates, and the Buccaneers are no longer just hopefuls, they are serious contenders. The Sea Robbers are in action tonight, away to Richards Bay at 7:30. Both teams have a difficult run of fixtures ahead. Big matches against rivals like Kaizer Chiefs could decide everything, but definitely looking forward to seeing how this race is going to end towards the end of the season. Then finally, Athletics South Africa Vice President John Matane has dismissed speculations that he is eyeing the presidency, insisting that he's only holding the fort while James Moloi remains suspended. Matane says that he's very loyal to Moloi and has no interest in taking over permanently, stressing that Athletics SA's decision cannot be made unilateral. And he also has urged Athletics Gauteng North, Athletics South Africa rather, that they must resolve its governance quickly to avoid suspension and expulsion. I'll definitely keep a close eye on that story as it develops. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour, Ashraf.
Hi, before you go, listen, so yesterday we chatted about schools rugby and my perception, based upon statistical evidence, empirical evidence, that the support at school rugby level is immense, right? And I don't see that in soccer or football or cricket on a regular basis. Is that true, and if so, why?
I think it's true. I think firstly, history and tradition really play a big role, because rugby has long been deeply rooted in a lot of South African schools, especially the former Model C and private schools. Secondly, school infrastructure and funding are very different. Rugby schools often have excellent facilities, they have gyms, they have full-time coaching staff, medical support, and also I think the very important one is that there's a clear development pathway that gives rugby an advantage. So you see these talented school players who are able to move smoothly from school teams to provincial unions, then to professional franchises. But then when you look at the side of football, they use different systems. And I mean, you'd think of clubs and leagues that contribute more to football development than schools do. But obviously, this is exactly what Pitso Mosimane is trying to address with his program and the school's program, because he's also trying to kind of like build something similar to what rugby does.
Because I mean, the bottom line to that, I understand the historical differences, and we're talking about predominantly white schools in apartheid South Africa. But 3 decades into democracy, if that template has worked enough to deliver 4 World Cups, then in other sports it would be wise to work with the education authorities to emulate that template in their sports, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm bound to expect someone who's going to listen and say, hey, I have a thought and why we should or why we should not do it. Thanks for your time, to me. Back in an hour, right?
SAFM music crafted to make you feel real good. Handpicked just for your pleasure. Classics sounding so good, only on SAFM. This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all. Under the theme, Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAFM will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM. Prime time all day long. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, I can't emphasize it enough. It's prime time. It's prime time on this show, absolutely, because by the minute things happen as we talk, as you now heard, the SAA CEO calling it quits as well. And I'm sure you're going to react to that too, right? But let's talk about the Madlanga Commission. It ended at 12 o'clock today. But let's recap. The suspended Tshwane Metro Police Department's Deputy Chief, Umashi Dlamini, testified before the Madlanga Commission. Now, we've picked out some key moments here. Firstly, Dlamini says, and this is key, he has never met Vusimuzi Cat Matlala or Joe Sibanyoni.
I have never interacted with Mr. Joe Sibanyoni, Mr. Vusimuzi Matlala, and Mr. Mandla Mncina for whatsoever reasons.
Do you know of them, though? Any of those individuals?
The one that I know, I've never met with him, it's Mr. Joe Sibanyoni. He used to work with my brother in the taxi industry when they were establishing Salta. They were together in the taxi industry. That's the only person that I know.
But you never met him?
I've never met with him or interacted with him.
And the other 2 gentlemen, apart from perhaps what we know from the media?
I don't know them.
Thank you.
Indicate whether I have any interest.
So just last question.
Yeah, sorry.
Because you did mention in the beginning about the business, and now you just mentioned again the taxi business. Are you still in the taxi business? Are you in the taxi business?
It's the family that is in the taxi business.
So
it's a family business.
Thank you. We can proceed.
Indicate whether I have any interest in or relationship with any of the following companies or close cooperation, whether directly or indirectly, or any other shareholders and directors. Kubis 85 Solution, I don't have any interest or relationship, whether directly or indirectly, with any of their holders or directors. Ngapesheya Construction and Project, I don't have any interest in the company directly or indirectly. However, I know Peggy Nkosi as a younger brother to Sergeant Nkosi. Triotic Protection Services, I don't have any interest in the company or relationship directly or indirectly. 2Corp Insecurity Services, I don't have any interest in the company or relationship directly or indirectly.
Right, so what's more? Once again, Oumashid Dlamini then referenced that he shared tender documents. And listen to this.
He indicated that he wanted to verify in both instances that whether his brother has tendered the bid or what.
So for now, we can say at least he is advancing the interest of Ngapesheya.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Commission. Is that correct, Commissioner?
And lastly, did you duly comply with the request?
Yes, I did forward him those lists.
Just understand, you say these documents were available, public documents, and you refer us to Anisha J. When you say they were available public documents, on which platform, which public platform are they available at the time when you provide to Sergeant Nkosi?
They usually publish them, Commissioner, on e-tender for Tshwane. So they close out the report, they put them there because when the tender closes, any bidder can request the pricing of those bidders and so forth. But due to administration, sometimes delay of a lot of tenders, it gets done later on.
And then, here's an important one, and I think it's a natural question. What is Oumashid Dlamini's relationship with the CFO, Gareth Mnisi?
Mr. Mnisi is my colleague who holds the position of the CFO in the city of Tshwane. I do not have any personal relationship or business relationship. The relationship I have with the CFO, it's a professional relationship and does not extend beyond that point.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
Lastly, explain in detail the nature and extent and purpose of your three-way interaction with both Mr. Gareth Mnisi and Sergeant Nkosi, and why such interaction would have included the business of the city of Tshwane. I think is the question that we'll deal with when we come, as Commissioner Khumalo indicated.
That's fair enough. Perhaps on the last question, will you accept at the very bare minimum that at least a common interest you have with Mr. Mnisi is that you both have Sergeant Nkosi as a common person that you both refer to as brother, or at least as having a close relationship with him? Can you at least concede on that score?
The question was the relationship I have with the CFO. It's just a professional relationship.
Yes.
For me to have a brotherly relationship with Sergeant Nkosi, I can't extend it to the CFO and as such.
No.
Okay, that alone should give you lots of cause for thought, I'm sure, about that. So we've picked out those highlights, which I think in many ways encapsulates the goings on today at the Madlanga Commission. It's been adjourned, as you know, until next week, not even Monday, Tuesday, but you can respond to that, even that specifically, that narrow comment, which I think gives you a sense of where we are. So how about doing that? Also, by the way, regarding the whole Phala Phala report, right? What's now, as per today, what's your one word that you would use that best reflects your thoughts regarding what you've just heard, regarding Phala Phala? I'll read them out when you send it, but we'll talk more about it from a legal perspective next.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
By the way, after the news at 4, we'll talk about the ANC and the SACP. ANC plannings around their mayoral candidates for the elections, and where does the ANC SACP fit with all of that? So that's important in terms of understanding their relationship itself, right? But now, earlier on, we heard from the African Transformation Movement, their thoughts regarding the IPID recommendations against 2 SAPS officers over their alleged role in covering up the 2020 Phala Phala farm theft. I mean, the point is, at this point, it's about the procedures that's being discussed and maybe whether somebody has fallen foul of that or not. But what should you take out from all of this? Let's understand it from a legal perspective with Modidima Manya, the advocate and legal analyst. Appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I mean, lots of discussion today around what was revealed as per the report. What's your one word that encapsulates your emotions around it?
Look, my one word would be, it's rogueness. And I'm saying rogueness because this is one classic example of the role that civil servants play. We often think it's all politicians, but you can actually see that in the public service, civil servants are actually doing what they like. And the question is, are they not being held accountable, or is there a collapse in the governance?
Okay, rogueness it is, right? So if rogueness is your one word, then in terms of what was uncovered today, and my understanding is, it doesn't convict anybody, it doesn't clear anybody either, right? How then do you analyze the overall report in terms of what you've heard?
Look, my understanding of the report, and I think this is why I probably chose the word rogueness. You have a system here that is designed to provide a service to the head of state. Naturally, they are independent of the head of state themselves because they report to the South African Police Services. That's where their command and control is. So the president becomes like a beneficiary of the service. Now, they take decisions, which are not even in line with their command and control rules at the SAPS. Obviously, the question is, was he oblivious of this? Was he supposed to know? Was he involved? Now, unfortunately, IPID's mandate ends with law enforcement officers. They can't investigate the president. So unless one of them had come and say, well, look, the president knew about it, I spoke to him about it, he sanctioned it, then it would obviously go to another forum. But it introduces another challenge that we are facing, that we have got a multiplicity of investigations on the same issue. Now, we have got all these pieces, and at some point, one is going to contradict the other is going to probably corroborate to some extent, then we can't necessarily find an answer.
Well, if the sense, as per the IPID report, is that there's been this abuse of power, certainly from those who are pulling the strings around state security, then, as you know, they're not investigating the president. There's not a moment that goes by without anybody and everybody making the link between what happened there and the president himself. So how do you make that link then?
Well, it raises the point I made, and it raises even questions about whether the president is actually safe with this type of behavior from people who are supposed to protect him. Because if officials and officers, and this is not limited to the police, and I think you have seen what comes out of the Madlanga Commission, but this is widespread in the public service. In almost all departments, officials take decisions on their own, do things, and they feed the politicians whatever they want to feed, which then, disables the system as a whole. So basically, you're asking yourself, we see the things we see in the Madlanga Commission, we're scared. These are very senior police officers. Wally Ruda is a very senior officer. He falls in the category of those senior people there. Now, the question is, should we continue to trust that the people that are occupying these positions provide safety for us?
And the answer, based upon what we now know?
Well, look, I doubt, and I have no doubt there are very good police officers who are doing a lot of good work, but the image that comes out of there makes one scared, because we still don't know the depths. I mean, if people protecting the president can abuse their power, can abuse state resources and do these illegalities, then you must. They don't seem to be thinking that, look, we're working with the head of state who has got all the executive authority. He can get us into trouble. It doesn't even seem to bother them.
Or vice versa, we can get him into trouble.
Yes, we can get him into trouble. In fact, the president, it seems like he's in trouble because of the people that work for him, more than what he's alleged to have done.
Which then leaves this question in this world of high-level espionage. You know, it sounds ridiculous, but would there be a reason why some people may willfully want to get the president into trouble, even though they themselves may fall in the process?
Look, I'm not even sure whether they had the president in mind, because if people embark on this, they might have had their own interests. I mean, remember, money was stolen here, and we now know that it is possible that police sees drugs, and some other police officer arranges for the drugs to be stolen. So you can't exclude the possibility that people thought here's an opportunity, but actually have nothing to do with the president. I mean, officials who take bribes and who are corrupt have got nothing to do with the political head. They are themselves the thieves in their own right. And they might just be exploiting the fact that they are not watched much closer.
Accepting if there's evidence that the president then turned a blind eye when he discovered what had happened or did not happen, then he would be seen as complicit, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I mean, as I say, what has not come out is whether any one of them says, I did this with the full knowledge and blessing of the president. I don't think that comes out of the report at this stage.
So based upon what we know, I mean, for example, different political parties expressing themselves in their own way, the ATM saying, there's grounds now for an impeachment. Do you think that is pushing the line or pushing the boundaries too far at this point in time?
Well, it seems like, having regard to the fact that Parliament itself commissioned a commission to investigate that, and they took a decision not to proceed with that type of approach. Now, but you must also understand it happens within a political context, and there's a lot of point scoring. What we should not lose focus on is that there must be some requirements met for people to persuade us that there's wrongdoing. I don't think the public will protect anybody if there's wrongdoing. But simply because you disagree with the president, you are not going to infer that because officials who protect him were involved in this thing, then he's complicit or party to it.
So at this point in time, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody's been found guilty and nobody's been found not guilty. Nobody's been cleared and nobody's been condemned, has it?
Yes, I mean, there are serious findings. But I think what sort of struck me is to think, but if these people, because this involved a criminal offense. Now, if police officers were involved in this, I think it goes beyond misconduct. I think there's some element of defeating the end of justice here, and there could be some other criminality, because I think the report doesn't go as far as saying what exactly did they get out of this whole situation, because why wasn't it reported and investigated in the normal course? What did they want to get and what did they get? It seems to be suggesting that this is just a disciplinary matter, but it might actually go far beyond a disciplinary matter.
Yeah. Let's just end with the fact that some elements now have been made public, but they're not completely public either, right? How do we interpret that? From classified to declassified, but not declassified to the public.
Yes, I think this issue of classification of information might become a bit of a challenge. Generally, and I don't think we want, sensitive state secrets like where is our military command in the case of a war to be made public. But I don't know why we have a problem classifying things that talk about governance and accountability. I mean, how are we going to, as the public, become conscious of the possibility of officials doing things that are wayward? How do we then alert the authorities that, we think this police officer is taking a bribe from Mr. Gada, And I think if every report is going to be classified, then we might as well not have an investigation. I mean, I'm just saying, even if this report seriously implicated the president, there's no basis, in my view, for it to be classified and hidden from the public. The president is there to serve us, and we must hold him accountable like anybody who occupies public office.
Because, one of the issues around classification is it's a case of, who guards the guardian and ultimately who makes that call, isn't it?
Yes, and I think that is why you find that most of the agencies, especially law enforcement agencies, are always questioned and there's always suspicion. I mean, you know that almost every senior politician who has been charged would come and say there's a political conspiracy. It's because there's also very limited transparency in what the police are doing, and these things take quite a long time. And by the time they come out in the public, there's all this manner of suspicion. And I think that's what the challenge is. And I think we need to seriously review what is it that is in the public interest, what is it that compromises state security. I don't think you can tell me that a police officer who behaves in this rogue manner has to be treated with some sensitivity. What sensitivity?
So let's end by this. We're getting into the weekend. By its very nature in the news cycle, the weekends are full of exposés and speculations and even more, right? What would you be looking out for?
Look, I'm somewhat defeated because, as you know, it took quite a while for this report to come out, okay? And as you correctly point out, it doesn't seem like we have everything. Of course, we're still waiting for other processes. The public protector's report is there. It's not been taken seriously. We're waiting for the Constitutional Court judgment. We don't know what it will say and whether people will accept it. And then, so the cycle continues. So in a way, you're sort of defeated. Anything can happen. We can hear something tomorrow because it doesn't seem like we have got a system where when matters arise, they are dealt with in the most efficient and as soon as possible.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time and definitely appreciate your insights on this issue. Advocate Modidima Manya, who's providing legal analysis in this case here over what's classified and declassified around the Phala Phala farm theft report. Quite a story, but I can tell you now, the weekend, I expect so much further analysis and we'll keep it covered, if not over the weekend, then next week as well. For now, let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Jolani.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories. Sabah, the SAA CEO resigns and the fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran is under growing pressure. Good afternoon. The South African Airways Board has announced the resignation of its CEO, Professor John Lamola. In a statement released today, both the board and Transport Minister Barbara Creecy confirmed they have accepted his departure, which takes effect at the end of this month. Lamola took the helm of the national carrier in May 2022, leading the airline through its post-business rescue recovery and the volatile aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Tsepo Mawai reports.
While the reasons for his sudden exit remain unclear, Lamola's tenure was not without friction. His appointment was previously overshadowed by allegations of improper interference involving Deputy President Paul Mashatile and Minister Creecy. However, subsequent investigation by Public Protector found that the claims to be unsubstantiated. To ensure stability, the board has appointed Matsela Sishibe, the current CEO of SAA subsidiary Air Chefs, as the acting group CEO. The airline says recruitment process for a permanent successor will begin shortly. Tsepo Mungwai, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Eastern Cape Health Department says an unprotected strike at the Dorangenza Hospital and Motherwell Community Health Centre in Gqeberha has led to the disruption of services. It says the strike is also putting the lives of patients at risk. The strikers are complaining of being overworked. The department spokesperson Kamagwini Mavovana says security has been increased at the facilities and patients taken to other health centres.
The department remains fully aware of the concerns raised by staff. These concerns were legitimate and have been treated with urgency and seriousness. However, the department is equally clear that there are established lawful processes through which such matters must be addressed. These processes were not followed prior to the commencement of the current strike action. The department has taken decisive action in response to the situation.
Still in the Eastern Cape, residents in Kukombo City have taken to the streets following a people's imbizo aimed at addressing concerns over undocumented foreign nationals. The meeting shifted as residents moved towards the California Buildings area, believed to be a hotspot for drug activity and illegal immigrants. Community members say they want to reclaim the area and remove foreign nationals from the buildings. Hlumisa Qabaka reports.
Streets in and around the area remain quiet, with many residents fearing possible escalation of the march, and police presence has been heightened. The march was planned for earlier, but Buffalo City Mayor Princess Faku indicated that it was converted to an imbizo, citing safety concerns. However, the situation intensified as the imbizo attendees dispersed to the streets after indicating during the proceedings that they intend to continue with the planned march. The march is led by government leadership and Khoisan leaders. Hlumisa Qabaka, SABC News, Kukombo.
SACP Deputy National Chairperson Thulas Nxesi says the party is not seeking to weaken its long-standing alliance with the ANC. Nxesi says they are instead calling for its reconfiguration. He says differences within the alliance must be handled with maturity, especially as political tensions grow after the SACP's decision to contest elections independently. Nxesi was speaking at the 33rd commemoration of the SACP's liberation struggle icon, Chris Hani, in KwaGafontein in Mpumalanga. He says engagement within the alliance should remain disciplined despite differing views.
Our opposition, the old order, are celebrating when we are fighting. The SACP has therefore called for the reconfiguration of the alliance, not to weaken it, but to democratize it, restore strategic clarity, and place the working class interests back into the center of the state power. Differences of view must be handled with maturity and discipline.
And finally, the fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran is under growing pressure, a day before the two sides are expected to hold talks in Pakistan. US President Donald Trump has accused Iran of breaching the agreement by failing to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Israel has continued to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon, which the Iranians insist is a violation of the truce. The BBC's Daniel DeSimone reports.
There's been previous statements from the Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, where he's saying that the only solution to the situation in Lebanon is a ceasefire. This all comes during this huge dispute about whether Lebanon is included in the ceasefire deal involving Iran, the US, and Israel. The US and Israel saying it's not included. Pakistan, which mediated the deal, saying it was included. Iran also saying that.
Recapping the top story this hour, the South African Airways Board has announced the resignation of its CEO, Professor John Lamola. For SAFM News, I'm Chonani Tulo Wepe.
In sports this hour, Springbok women begin 2026 with alignment camp in Stellenbosch. Wadu shares update on Sihle Nduli and Thapelo Xoki injuries, and Gerda Steyn targets historic 7th Two Oceans crown. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
With the N3 South looking very heavy, it's a crash at Modderfontein Road. As you come into Edenvale, traffic backlogging through to Lindbro Park and heavy across all lanes there. R24 from Barber Road onto the R21 at the airport, that is quite slow today. And some queuing pressure on the N1 South, just heading down towards Winnie Mandela. Back of the queue there about Ravoni Road. Pretoria generally all right this afternoon. A bit of traffic on Esky and Pathleli up to Putco, but apart from that, we're looking okay around Capital City. Durban's been a day of crashes between Umgeta Road and Spaghetti Junction. Thankfully, that section clear at this stage, but there is a backlog on the N3 outbound approaching Pavilion Mall, so delays going through Spaghetti Junction on your way out towards Pinetown. N2 coming southbound between Gateway and Kumashu. There's a crash, so a bit of queuing pressure on the N2 from the Umhlanga exit. Ashburton area, Pietermaritzburg looking okay, no problems there. And Cape Town, just a lot of traffic on the way out of town this afternoon. The N1 from around about Kuburg, interchange, just busy all the way through towards Okavanga Road, and the N2 out of Cape Town, slow through Hospital Bend, as far as Bunga Avenue in the Langa area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Here, there, and everywhere.
104.4 FM in Durban.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, up to now, there's been this conversation that specifically with regard to the Joburg mayoral candidates, that the DA has got a head start. Action SA is also taking action. And what of the ANC? That's regarding Joburg. But the same can apply to every other, municipality around the country ahead of the end of the year local government election, right? So it is in that context that the ANC held a briefing to share plans of its special National Executive Committee meeting, which has been underway at Birchwood Hotel itself. A lot to talk about, including, their nominations or the names they're putting forward to serve as mayors across the length and breadth of the country. Let's find out more about that. Before I do that, just continue. I know many people do so. Your one word to describe the Phala Phala report today in terms of it being declassified. Just your one word about your emotions. I'll read it just now. Ntebo Mokobo is with me. In fact, we're going to get to Ntebo Mokobo right after this.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Now leave the SABC and see the tower block lit up, 27 stories of light. Move from Auckland Park into the shadow of the Hillbrow Post Office Tower.
This is the English service of the SABC. Here is the news, read by Patricia Carr. A member of the Planning Committee of the President's Council, Mr. Nick Churnicht, has been appointed chairman of the Council's Community Relations Community.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, so let's talk about the ANC and what they've been talking about today. Ntebo Mokobo is with me, the SABC reporter covering that story. Ntebo, thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. So, what's it been like? Tell us.
Well, as you would recall, that the ANC sometime yesterday issued a statement that today there's going to be the special ANC NEC, and normally special special NEC meetings are just called to discuss either one or two issues, and this time around there was only one issue that was on the table, and that issue was the relationship between the ANC and the SACP following the SACP's decision to contest elections independently. The meeting was supposed to have started around 2, but you would understand that at some point the deputy president was not around in another province, and the president as well in another province. So the meeting was a bit delayed, although some NEC members were there. The meeting is yet to start. We're told that it will start immediately when all officials are in attendance, at least if the presidency, which means the president and the deputy president, if one of them is there, then the meeting could start. What is going to happen is that they will discuss the SACP and the ANC relations. And there was a briefing that NEC, special NEC, was preceded by a briefing, and that briefing looked into the selections of the mayoral candidate as well as councillor candidates for the ANC. But what really was uppermost in the briefing was the selection of the mayoral candidates for the ANC. You would recall, Ashraf, that at some point, what the ANC normally does is that it goes to elections. After coming out of the elections, it then appoints or select or identify its mayoral candidates, where the officials will then call certain individuals, interview them, and those who qualify based on gender and their qualifications, those who qualify will then be given the opportunity. But this time around, they are saying, out of the 8 metros and the 22 secondary municipalities or secondary cities, they are going to allow the public, for the first time, they are going to allow the public to identify people that they think they are competent to do the job, equal to the task. And of course, again, they are going to even headhunt, go out as the ANC and headhunt people who are competent to become mayoral candidates for the ANC. And this time around, before the country even goes to the elections, people would know who's going to be the mayoral candidate, for instance, in Tshwane, in Mangaung, in Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, in the Buffalo City. All those metros, people would know before they even go to elections who's going to be the mayors in those things. This has never happened. This is the first time around.
And in saying this is the first time around, does that reflect a state of inertia within the ANC on the one hand, and also the fact that they know they've lost ground? I mean, it's common knowledge, right? They've lost ground in the previous election, and there are concerns that other candidates have had a head start already.
In fact, that's the question that I posed to the Secretary General, that is this an admission on the part of the ANC to say they don't have appealable or people who are appealing to society to become mayors? And that's why they now go out, especially when it comes to the issue of headhunting, because they say they will go out, headhunt, get people with skills and competency and people who are amenable to the communities or to the public. And he said, no, it's not about that. It's all about democratizing the process and trying to ignite or to reinstill confidence, public confidence and public trust in the processes of the ANC, by getting people to have confidence in the processes of the ANC. He denied that. But if you look at everything, is that they have mayors, they have mayoral candidates, they have regional chairpersons, and those regional chairpersons, the question is, are these regional chairpersons equal to the task, or are these people who are only voted by selected people in those regional conferences? And can they really take these municipalities and the 22 secondary cities to forward? That's the question that I think the ANC is grappling with, and that's why they've decided to go that route. I mean,
isn't that the point? It's for me, my sense, it may be less about democratizing the processes, which I think the ANC has been traditionally very strong on from grassroots upwards. I think people will be less concerned about that and more concerned about making sure that the candidate in that region is the right candidate who will actually lead them and has the charisma, but also the track record and the confidence of the people to actually deliver. That's really what people want, isn't it?
Yes, that's what people want. I mean, if you look at, for instance, the HSRC report that says around 63% of South Africans are a bit disengaged. They're not interested really in voting. They don't even trust the democratic dispensation. It is because people are asking themselves, what are dividends? What are the derivatives from this voting process? That's what you need to come up to say. In as much as people have lost confidence, but this is the competent person that you can trust, that you will sort of revive that interest in you to vote and to participate in the electoral process. So that's what they are trying to do, to get people who will be really liked by communities, not just because people can sing in those communities or people go to church in those communities, they are known in those communities, but people with skills and competency and equal to the task.
What sort of timelines have they given before they come up with those names?
Well, the process has started, and the finalization and announcement of all mayoral candidates will have to happen before the end of June. By the end of June, we would have known who is going to represent the ANC in the 8 metros and the 22 identified municipalities or cities across the country. By the end of June, we would know that. As we speak, the process has started. They start communicating with communities and everything. And all the structured interviews across the country and all provinces will have to happen by early June. You would recall that the officials are the ones who interview these prospective mayors and prospective councillors, people in 22 cities. So those interviews will have to happen by early June, and by the end of June, we would know who is going to be, for instance, your mayor in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in Ekurhuleni, and other municipalities across the country.
Okay, now you did say the ANC's leadership is not there, so they haven't really started at all. But what about in choosing the mayoral candidates, has issues of now a not united ANC SACP come to the fore?
Well, they didn't really try. Try to link it with the SACP and the ANC aspect. But what they said is that they find themselves in a dicey situation where they have to, for instance, prepare for elections. And while they're preparing for elections, they think of Ashraf Garda, who's sitting in the central committee of the SACP, who's got the potential maybe to run the ANC municipality in Johannesburg. But this person at some point would want to go and campaign for the SACP. So they want to be clear before they even go to elections. And they want to do that through this special NEC to decide on what are they going to relate with the SACP. So the special NEC will come up with something like that in terms of how are they going to relate with the SACP. You would understand again that they've got a dual membership as ANC and SACP members. That dual membership was adopted many decades ago when SACP and the ANC were like working fine. During the Moses Kotane, the Nelson Mandela, all those people who were there at some point, they had that dual membership. It was a conference resolution. So if they were to do away with that conference resolution, they would need another conference. 2027 will then decide that either the SACP dual membership and ANC dual membership they will do away with. But for now, SACP, Communist and Nationalist in the ANC, they can have dual membership. But what the meeting is that how are they going to relate with the SACP when they go to these elections? So you recall that at some point some SACP members who were central in the election, putting together the election machinery or participating in the election machinery of the ANC, those people will have to be taken out, and the ANC will have to focus only with ANC in both the SACP and the ANC.
Okay, the line's getting progressively worse. Let's leave it at that. But your insights, I think, have been invaluable. Thank you for your time, Ntebo Mokobo, the SABC reporter. In answer to that question, Ashraf Garda, would you consider standing as a mayoral candidate? Can you just imagine that? It's got a ring to it, right? Mayoral candidate Ashraf Garda, and emphatically the answer is no. This is the National Pulse.
You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAFM.
How do you get the buy-in of the average member of the public service? Those who've sauntered into work every day and sat around taking multiple lunch breaks, not assisting the members of the public.
What is important is to make sure that the performance management system, people are really putting their hours. It doesn't matter whether you're a sweeper or whatever, etc., whatever career you're doing. Anyone who doesn't pull their weight surely do not belong in the public service. They are no longer civil servants, they've become evil servants.
Vusimusi Mavuso of the Public Service Commission.
The Daily Discourse, more than talk, real understanding. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Right, we're going to talk more deeper in this case about the tripartite alliance and just the state of it. That comes up in a moment. But having said that, as we talk about that, the leader of the dominant party or the grouping within the tripartite alliance very much under fire. So let's get some comments from you.
Ashraf, good afternoon. I'm Flores from the beautiful Winelands. Ashraf, I'm going to use a word in my mother tongue. Stom geslaan. Ik is stom geslaan. That's my one word. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Stom geslaan means, so that we know your one word. Thanks for that.
Hi, Ashraf. You know what? People are so desperate. After about 8 years of Ndate Ramaphosa being in the position of presidency, there hasn't been anything that links him with the theft from the state or stealing of money from the state. We are hammering on his money being stolen, not him stealing anything from us. We're just making noise because there's nothing that we can actually apportion to this man that he may have done against the state. That's so sad.
So are you saying there's been a slur on his name, and that's unfairly so?
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your fellow SAFM listeners. It's Lazarus in Lesotho. The President of the Republic of South Africa should do an honorable thing on this saga of Phala Phala and resign without waiting for any impeachment.
Okay, there we are. You see, there we are. Can you see the cross-section from he did nothing, the president that is, or to the president must resign? Right, what about the state of the tripartite alliance? Next.
SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily. Daily.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, so we got the ANC's tripartite alliance. It's been an alliance between the ANC and COSATU and the SACP since day one, isn't it? And largely it's delivered for the African National Congress. I mean, just rewind to 1994. Imagine if the two parties and then the Labour Union had gone their separate ways. There was no endorsement from COSATU, and the SACP contested the election on its own, and so did the ANC. What would the ANC have been like now? Well, we know where the ANC is right now. And there's also been talks about ruptures within that alliance right now. I mean, is that on the mark or is that completely off the mark? With me, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, African diplomacy and leadership researcher at the University of Johannesburg. Dr. van Heerden, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Let me start with this. I mean, how healthy is the state of the alliance?
Look, I mean, up until a few months ago, I would have said quite strong and all going full steam ahead. But as you know, the South African Communist Party, after a strategic session that they held, decided that they are going to go it alone in the upcoming local government elections of 2026. And since then, there has been a mounting amount of tension that has been developing between, particularly, the South African Communist Party and the African National Congress. And we've now begun to see that spill out into the public domain, on public forums, the president saying he doesn't take kindly to this decision and that Communist Party members cannot be part of the strategic operations and thinking of the ANC as it decides to go through the local government elections. So, and of course, the secretary of the Communist Party coming out, guns blazing, no, this is an informed decision, we need to do this. But at the same time, everyone is pretending that the health of the tripartite alliance is still strong, which of course it is not.
And I take it, unlike maybe before, more so now than ever, that it is actually being, it's been divided along policy lines. I mean, along interpretations of what's right for the alliance. For example, even an issue like the GNU, they differ fundamentally, right?
Yes, so perhaps, Ashraf, it's important for the listeners to understand that there was always an historic understanding between the ANC and the Communist Party. And that was that the African National Congress is moving towards and fighting for the liberation of all South Africans in order for them to obtain universal suffrage, in other words, the vote, and they can then liberate themselves and vote for a government of their choice. That was the main objective, guided by the Freedom Charter. Once that was attained in 1994, the phase two of the revolution, as they say, is supposed to kick in, which is the Communist Party is now supposed to address the ideological, economic trajectory of the country, taking us towards socialism, where we share in the wealth of the country and so forth, and ultimately to communism. That was never the agenda of the ANC, and I think it's important that the listeners understand that. And what's now taking place is that they found some way of finding convergence and having dual membership up till this point. No one raised any alarm. But as you rightfully say, Ashraf, there are those in the Communist Party that is beginning to say that this neoliberal economic agenda that is being pushed and has been pushed by the ANC for the better part of the last 30 years, they now need to break from that. And ideologically, want to take people back to say we need a socialist dispensation. We are providing something different to that of the ANC. As to whether they will succeed, we will have to see.
I mean, I think an important question, therefore, is, if the alliance does not hold, I mean, even within this upcoming election, they separate, but they still have they would have a collaboration agreement of sorts anyway. But assuming the alliance actually breaks off, right, would the ANC survive without that alliance? And would the SACP survive without that alliance?
Well, what we have seen with this alliance over the last few years is that the organized labor has been disintegrating. There has been tensions and breakaways. If we talk of AMCU in terms of NMU, we talk of other breakaways that has taken place within the Federation of the Congress of South African Trade Unions. And that in itself is an indication of priorities changing and shifting and emphasis changing and shifting within organized labor. Then you have this break now that we are discussing between the Communist Party and the ANC. So for all intents and purposes, if you ask me my opinion, the tripartite alliance is already fractured and broken. There's just this modicum of pretense on the part of the leadership of all three entities to try and say that, no, we are still comrades, we are still friends, we are still together. But it is not the case. Now, to come to your specific question, what will happen to the ANC if indeed there is this break? Well, I would imagine, but all three organizations is based on quantity in terms of membership number. It's mass-based. The ANC at any given point is fluctuating between 800,000 and 1 million members. We don't know if that can be verified, of course. Similarly, COSATU is saying that organized labor constitutes the bulk of workers within the country, which also in the tune of millions. And then, of course, the Communist Party. I don't know what is the latest figures because the Communist Party operates in a slightly different model in terms of emphasis more on quality, better few but better. But they themselves are saying that they are in the tens of thousands in the country. So, if there should be a break, I think the ANC will simply revert back to its traditional support base in terms of members that are ANC members, as well as obviously the mass appeal amongst the majority black South Africans out there.
Well, let's leave it at that. Thanks for your insights, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, African diplomacy and leadership researcher at the University of Joburg. But maybe here's a question just for you to think about over the weekend. If for any reason the ANC SACP alliance absolutely fractures, as many have suggested it already is, then is there a case now for a new ANC alliance with somebody else? And is there a case for an SACP alliance with somebody else? And in fact, who would that be? Share your thoughts. 4:30. Here's the news headlines.
Good afternoon. Making headlines, the South African Airways Board has announced the resignation of its CEO, Professor John Lamola. In a statement released today, both the board and Transport Minister Barbara Creecy confirmed they have accepted his departure, which takes effect at the end of this month. COSATU says it welcomes the revised electricity tariff relief offer by Eskom for ferrochrome producers Samanco Chrome and Glencore Merafe Chrome venture. And finally, civic organisation Sanko's Deputy President Chris Malimacha says the vision of struggle icon Chris Hani remains unfulfilled without services including water and sanitation. He was speaking at the 33rd commemoration of Hani's assassination held in Kwaggafontein in Mpumalanga as part of Freedom Month activities. Greg House has the details at 5 o'clock. For SAFM News, I'm Jolani Tulo Mwepe.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here's a big one to avoid if you can. The N3 going south from the Buccleuch interchange is jammed solidly all the way down to Edenvale. It's a crash blocking multiple lanes at Modderfontein Road that's causing that backlog. N1 up through Midrand, starting to get heavy from Allendale through to New Road. The N1 south from Rivonia to William Mandela is slow. N3 is heavy today, unusual for this time of the afternoon. Backed up from the cement factory through Heldnation towards Van Buren into that roadwork zone. And Malabongwe Drive, worth a mention, it's heavy today from Stratham Park Park out through North Riding. There's a couple of sets of traffic lights, but looks like something else may be going on there. Malapongwe outbound, very heavy. The N3 leaving Durban, sitting from Sherwood through to Pavilion Mall. The N2 South through Gateway down to the Komashu exit is busy. And if you pop through Peter to Durban, queues on the Pietermaritzburg bypass running south, and then a breakdown after Market Road towards Ashburton. Cape Town, the N1 outbound, fairly busy out as far as Okavango Road. Some queues on the N2. Looks like Friday volumes just heading out through Somerset West. Backlogs there through the Gans Park area. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Khapele.
Right, let's talk sports. And to me, I understand the Springbok women's team are in camp.
Yes, Springbok women head coach Suez de Bruin has named 34 players, including 10 uncapped talents, for the team's first alignment camp of the 2026 year in Stellenbosch. The camp will run from the 12th to the 24th of April as preparations begin for a bumper season featuring 14 tests, including the Rugby Africa Women's Cup in May, 2 home tests against the USA in July, and also a clash with New Zealand's Black Ferns in September. Now, several World Cup players will attend, though others are unavailable due to injury or sevens duty. And De Bruin says that the camp is vital to integrate new players and build depth. This is ahead of a demanding year. In terms of football, Orlando Pirates head coach Abdeslam Mwadu is still unclear on whether vice captain Thapelo Hloki and midfielder enforcer Sihle Nduli will be available for selection before the end of the season. As the Buccaneers enter the final stretch of their Betway Premiership title, they will need to have all their key players ready for battle. However, with Hloki and Nduli having been out of action on long-term injuries following their respective surgeries, Mwadu gave a realistic outlook with only 7 games to go in this campaign.
He's in the rehabilitation now. It's very important to stay close to this kind of players, not only him, Thapelo as well. They are part of our senior players, very experienced players, and they are doing well, both of them. We see them now. They start to come back on the pitch, walking. For some of them, running for the other ones. So they're on track, and I cannot tell you that maybe we have a chance to see them before the end of the season, because it has been a very, very serious injuries for both of them. So the most important is to make a very good rehabilitation in order to come back stronger.
Elsewhere, the Premier League returns this weekend after a 3-week break, and the action could have a big impact on the title race, European qualification, and also relegation battle. At the top, Arsenal still in control of the title race. Mikel Arteta's side can move 12 points clear if they beat Bournemouth at home. This is despite recent cup disappointments. The Gunners remain favourites to win their first league title in over 2 decades. However, Manchester City are close behind and finding form at the right time. Pep Guardiola's team travel to face Chelsea and will be ready to take advantage of any slip from Arsenal, especially with the crucial clash between the two sides coming up next week. Meanwhile, Liverpool are under pressure. Manager Arne Slot says that the team is in survival mode. This is after a poor run of results, and they face Fulham at Anfield, knowing another defeat could damage their hopes of qualifying for the Champions League. At the bottom of the table, the spotlight is on Tottenham Hotspur, who are fighting to avoid relegation. And new coach Robert De Zerbi takes charge for the first time this weekend, with Spurs desperate for a turnaround after a winless run in 2026. Ending things off with athletics, South Africa's ultra-distance queen Gerda Steyn is chasing history at the Two Oceans Marathon, aiming for a record-extending 7th title. The 56-kilometer race begins in Newlands tomorrow morning with a boosted winner's purse of 380,000 rands. Now, Steyn, who's unbeaten since her breakthrough in 2018, faces strong competition from Yvette Van Zyl, Neheng Katala, Adele Brudrake, and American contender Courtney Olsen. And despite her dominance, Steyn insists that she cannot afford to be comfortable, saying that she must give 100% against a world-class field. It'll be interesting to see if she'll be able to actually make history and actually get that record 7th title. Imagine the last time that she didn't win it was before 2018, and since then she's been winning the Two Oceans Marathon. So it'd be interesting to see if she'll be able to do it for a 7th time. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
And all I can think about is you're going to tell me that she doesn't even fly down to Cape Town for the Two Oceans. She just, she just takes a run, something along that line. No, I don't know, right? Thanks for that, Tumi. Yeah, more sport coming up in just under an hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
What does the markets tell us on the last day of the working week? With me is Paswane Mpatlele from Markway Fund Managers. You have all the answers, Paswane.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to all your listeners. Well, we got the U.S. inflation number for March, which surged from 2.4 to 3.3%. Quite significant, Ashraf, as energy prices rise by over 20% and dampening consumer confidence as it reinforced that stagflation risks are there, reflected in the higher yields locally and globally. And we've pointed to the higher for longer in terms of interest rates. While casting a shadow on interest rates, we see the likes of in the dollar is still holding up gains at a key level of 98.5. While looking into the Middle East front, yes, the ceasefire is in place and negotiations are going to kick off tomorrow in Pakistan. But with the ongoing attacks, it remains fragile and the Strait of Hormuz is still limited access. Investors' confidence on a clean deal has declined and it's signaled through the oil prices as they still remain above that key level of $93 a barrel. Currently is up 0.7% at $95.80 a barrel, holding up bullishly, which means that consumers are still going to experience a negative impact on their spending capabilities in the near term. When we look at the likes of gold, consolidating up 0.3 at $4,780 an ounce, and investors are currently now looking forward to next week's Q1 earnings from the US. And a key point for investors will be watching for those rate of change in revenue growth and protection of margins with higher fuel costs affecting operations. Volatility is a great way to look at the forward looking when we see the likes of the VIX. If it breaks down below 19, it would mean me positive for stocks, but if it doesn't, therefore it will be the opposite. We're looking at currently right now the VIX sits at 19, and we see the US equities are trading up 0.7%, S&P up 0.2, and the Dow down 0.2. Europe, we're seeing FTSE down 0.2, DAX and CAC up 0.6. Locally here, where JSE is up 0.8, with industrial leading up by 1%, financials 0.9, and resources up 0.5. When we look at our currency space, we look at the rand. It's sitting against the dollar at 16.33, a rand against the euro 19 rand 16 cents, and rand against the pound 22 rand.
Thanks for all of that, Paswane. Have a great weekend. We'll connect with you and the team on Monday.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
Some songs take you back instantly to your first love, a road trip, or just simpler times. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, is where timeless hits and forgotten favorites come together to tell your story. It's not just music, it's memories, moments, and the meaning behind this jam.
Don't you change someone by night.
Rediscover the songs that shaped your journey. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m., only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Standing on his own.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Right, so what we'll do, yesterday we had this conversation, about revising South Africa's history in schools specifically, right? So we're going to talk about that a bit further coming up pretty shortly, but I want to get your thoughts on some of the issues we've talked about so far. So what is it you want to get off your chest? What for you has moved the conversation up to now on the show or all day today on SAFM in South Africa? Let's hear from you. Cindy in Cindy, hi. Go for it.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good indeed. Go for it. You want to talk about the Igbo King, right?
Yes, I've been watching Dr. ABC or Coco's interviews.
Yeah.
First on AIE TV. It's on the social media network.
Mhm.
That was when they were installing, or not installing, they were coronating. Because when you coronate, you're coronating a monarch. He says he's the president of the Ibu Onayezeza thing. Yeah, forgot that. So when you're coronating, it means that you're crowning a monarch or traditional leader. He refers to himself as a president, which is you inaugurate a president. So I feel like in a way, it is gaslighting the people of South Africa. And there's a patterned behavior that they are showing. In 2022, they did the same in UK Birmingham. They coronated a traditional leader there, if they want to use that word. And then 2025 or 2024, it was Ghana. Now it shows in East London. But now, because of the people of East London stood up against them, this is why you're seeing the Nigerian embassy coming forward, him defending his people on TV like he's doing. But had we let it slide, we wouldn't be having him talking like this. And in his SABC interview, I think it was, March, end of March, SABC News interview, he said Nigerians are peace-loving people, or his Igbo people are peace-loving. How come that everyone has a problem with Igbo people? If they are so peace-loving, why is everyone complaining about the same ethnic group or demographic of people, if they are so peace-loving?
Is it not a case of they're complaining about them because of the incidents? I mean, there's 100 ethnic groups that you can have debates about every single day, but at this point in time, this is the direct response to what happened in South Africa in the Eastern Cape fairly recently.
You know, it's like, how do I put it? It's like a victim mentality. When they do something, they do so many bad things, and then they cry victim. If you go on social media, they're the ones that will cry that South Africa is the most xenophobic country and whatnot. But they forget the things that they do to South Africans. And the thing about xenophobia, for me, I have a problem with that word. Because what you are seeing is instances happening at the level of local economy. Local economy where people are fighting for stalls on the streets. South Africans want to sell things on the streets. Nigerians want to sell things on the street as well. So now it's a fight about local economy. It's not xenophobia. And I have a problem with our lack of leadership. Home affairs is not coming to the fore. Our political leaders are not coming to the fore. Now people are frustrated and they're going to take it out on these very people. And some of them are innocent.
But how, just the last thing, I mean, how do you link it between what you spoke about initially around the coronation to now a broader conversation about the economy and xenophobia?
Okay, let's link it this way. For me, if you're going to say you're going to coronate someone in another person's land, remember, East London falls under, I think, the Amahakabe Xhosa Kingdom. You are installing crowning a traditional leader in East London, which belongs to the Xhosa Kingdom. Did you approach the traditional leaders of the Eastern Cape? It's a disregard for in the first place to coronate someone there. And there, I think, I don't know, I'm not good with acts, I'm not a legal person. So, but for a person to come to South Africa and start a business, I'm sure there are laws behind that, but they're supposed to govern that.
All right.
So for me, it's a disrespect of traditional leadership, and then it goes to the level of the economy.
Okay.
You have decided to open a salon where South African locals also want to open salons.
Okay, can I leave it at that? I think you've made your point very clearly. So one is the economy, but the other one is saying disrespect in terms of South Africa, the cultural norms in certain aspects of South African life. So thank you for that. You've certainly put that on the agenda, Cindy, in Kuchompo, talking about the Igbo King, right? Paseka in the Eastern Cape as well. Hi, ANC SACP.
My good sir, how are you?
I'm good indeed. I hope you're well.
I'm well. I'm well. I wanted to talk about on the ANC SACP issue.
Yeah, go ahead.
And luckily your journalist or your reporter mentioned something about the dual membership, where SACP members, they are also members of the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
And ANC in its policies has a very clear policy that addresses an issue of contestation of power, and of which is exactly what is happening. And at some stage, part of it speaks about a member in a ward or in an area where ANC is a candidate, and you decide to contest in the same area or in the same space, you are contravening the rules of the ANC and the constitution of the ANC. And Rule 25 speaks clearly about that in terms of discipline, which is in the ANC itself. And then now, for one to discuss, you've got a former president who decided to launch a party, and he was suspended and expelled immediately. You've got many members, former members of the ANC, who have done the same thing. Pity is that in this instance, the SACP has been existing for a very long time as an alliance, and of which, in my belief, when you look at the history of this alliance between SACP, ANC, and COSATU, you've got a liberal movement, you've got a communist and a social movement, you've got a labor union movement, which three of them, they are supposed to be playing specific roles that they are supposed to play in this alliance, where SACP has to look at the communist and the social aspect of things, where you've got the ANC, which is a broader church that welcomes everyone, and you've got the COSATU that is focusing on labor issues, labor disputes, and all these things, which for me, both these two, they have failed dismally, because you've got an issue of land that falls within communist or socialist part of this tripartite alliance.
But I mean, isn't this the last thing? I mean, at the end of it, I know you mentioned just, in terms of the rules and regulations within the party structures and what's the understanding, but ultimately they would want to be together if it serves their common interest, right? And isn't it the case that in fact their common interest is not so common any longer, meaning that they are drifting into two different directions? That's really what it is.
Mr. Carter, ANC constitution and its rules in internal processes, the minute you pronounce that you'll be running for power, where ANC is running, there are two things. You are suspended to appear in the disciplinary committee and the disciplinary processes of the ANC, and should you be found to have committed a gross misconduct, you must be expelled from the ANC.
Okay.
And then now, irregardless, because, for example, there was...
All right, but I need to move on. I think you've made your point very, very strongly, right? You have, I'm sure we'll chat again tomorrow, next week, Monday, Tuesday, whenever, but I think for now you've made your point and you've got us thinking. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Again, we always get calls with great insights and it does get you thinking. And I mean, that's a great privilege here, because we all learn as we talk here on the National Pulse, talking together. Well, what about learning from our history? Next.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So, yesterday we had a chat with Henrik Makaneta, who's an education activist. We spoke about, the plan from the Education Department to gazette a draft curriculum for grades 4 to 12, which would see, in fact, at a higher level, and it's unclear just that history will be made compulsory on the one hand, but the more important one for now is a complete review of the narrative. That means at this point in time, if I can think about five of things, when I was a lighty, you think about Jan van Riebeck, and you think about Vasco da Gama and how important they were, and Simon van der Stel. I'm thinking about all those years ago. Yes, they have a part in the history, but how much did we leave out? And that's really part of this revision of what is going to be taught in school. So let's get another perspective of really what is the history that's really important. Emilia Potenza is an educator, curator, author, also an applied historian focusing on South African history. Emilia, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thanks. Hello, Ashraf.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Right. So let me start with that. I mean, would you say that by and large, in the 3 decades of democratic South Africa, that we have failed to capture the narrative that we needed to capture? And if the answer to that is yes, then my question would be why?
No, I don't think that's a fair allegation to make. I think that this is the fourth attempt at revising the curriculum. We had the first iteration curriculum 2005, which was a disaster and had to be revised. And then we had the National Curriculum Statement, which was a much more coherent curriculum, much more specified in the sense that, it was clear what needed to be taught in different subjects at different grade levels, which Curriculum 2005, believe it or not, failed to do. And then we had the CAPS curriculum, which is the one that is currently in place. And I think that the history curriculum of the CAPS history curriculum, which is the curriculum in question, I think, as I understand it, it is only the history curriculum that is being revised.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that what is happening is timely, and it has been many years in the making. I think that the team that has worked on this decolonization of the school curriculum has been working since 2019. And I think that there are many things that are on the table that are worthwhile and, worth considering for inclusion. And I think that the hype around all the things that have been left out is slightly unfounded. I've spent the last couple of days going through the documents with a fine-tooth comb, and almost all the things that have been listed as not included in the curriculum you can find them somewhere. They may not be being dealt with in enough detail or with enough attention, but Jan van Riebeeck is there, Steve Biko is there. The French Revolution isn't. The French Revolution has taken the top and has been replaced. I mean, there's a reference in passing to the French Revolution, but the focus is on the Haitian Revolution, which took place at the same time as the French Revolution. I can't really comment on that because I don't know very much about the Haitian Revolution. But the documents certainly make a case for, why this is worth looking at in as much as the French Revolution was, and why it is as significant. But I can't really comment on that.
Fair enough. I mean, so here's the point then. You talked about all the hype, right? So where's the hype coming from? Meaning, is the Minister of Basic Education, who's directly responsible for this in the first place, is the minister correct in saying there needs to be a revision, right? Then the next question is, if there is a need, because it's failed before, as you said in your intro, then are we revising it correctly? That means you mentioned the Haitian example. I've just been to Versailles a few months ago, so I'm thinking about the French Revolution. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the point. We have a certain perspective. But if you told me about Haiti, yes, I would not know much because we haven't been taught much about it. So, is there, from a South African point of view, is there a need to be Afrocentric, or in fact, are we an African country in the world, and the world politics must also reflect that? Because as we've just seen right now, what happens between Donald Trump and Iran and Israel and Lebanon and Palestine affects every one of us. You just can't ignore it.
Sure. But I think the answer is that we need both. We need both. And can we find the balance? And I think that's the key question to ask about this curriculum that's on the table. And I think that if you compare what we've got with the recommendation for the amended curriculum, I think actually if we look at the different phases, the intermediate phase, which is grade 4, 5, and 6, is pretty much in line with what we had before. I mean, it will require a revision of textbooks, and this is a big thing. And some retraining of teachers. But if essentially we've replaced Timbuktu, I think, or Mali with Mesopotamia in the intermediate phase, and all the other topics are pretty much the same. And then when you move to the senior phase, which is grade 7, 8, and 9, things, have changed quite a lot in that phase. And I've got two major concerns with what's been proposed. The first is that it is completely overloaded and too academic. It seems to me that this curriculum has been written by academics and not by teachers and practitioners, and surely there needs to be a combination of both. And what I'm hoping is that this comment phase will involve a redrafting. I mean, not, just paring down, just making the language of this document is in the end for teachers. And if you can't understand the language of the document, or if it's just too abstract and too academic, it's problematic. So that's a big concern of mine. And overcrowding the curriculum is a cardinal error to make. Our curriculum is already too overcrowded. And what then happens, I've had kids that have been in, written matric history in recent years. They don't complete the curriculum. They just leave out sections because they're choices in the exam, and you can spot. So whole sections just get left out because there isn't enough time to cover the curriculum. So that's highly problematic, I think. But more than that, in the grade 9 curriculum, the proposal is to include a topic called Race and Racism, Pseudoscience, and the Entrenchment of Social Inequalities during the 19th Century. This is a very important topic, and usually it's done in connection, in the context of World War II and eugenics and, and so on. And I don't believe that it's appropriate to do at grade 9 level. I don't think that learners are mature enough, and it's quite a harrowing topic to deal with. So that's a big concern for me. But also that actually in the general education and training, which is basically from grade 1 to grade 9, they don't do apartheid. They don't do apartheid. It's not in the curriculum anymore. It's been taken out.
So therefore, as we get to news time, so just a quick answer. With the planned revision, without going into the details now, you just highlighted the problems, right? Overall, do you think we'll be in a better position when the proposals are accepted or not?
Look, I think there's work to be done, and hopefully this consultation process is going to be a meaningful one, and there'll be a revision to what's on the table. I don't think we it's all a disaster. I think there's some brilliant stuff in the curriculum. There's the Indian Ocean trade stuff. There's city-states in all the provinces. That all this research and work by archaeologists and historians has only been done in the last 10 years. So to say, why has it taken 30 years? Well, there are very good reasons for some of it has taken 30 years, because it didn't exist. There was nothing to draw on, but now there is, and it's very exciting, and it's very, but it's still very academic. Okay. And for that to be popularized and turned into material that is accessible and exciting for school learners is another, it's going to take another 10 years, I believe.
I would think they should just do short 1-minute clips on TikTok. That'll get everybody understanding the history. And I'm not joking.
Right.
Emilia Potenza, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. How do you popularize history, the narratives, in a way that's not academic, that people just get? And I'm talking about school children. They just get it because it's that important. Here's back host for the news at 5.
Thank you, Ashraf. Ramaphosa speaks on allegations against ministers, and Vance heads to Pakistan for Iran talks. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's waiting for a solid report over alleged misconduct by 2 members of his cabinet, the Social Development Minister, Sisise Tulashe, and the Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie. Tulashe allegedly failed to disclose a donation of 2 cars to the ANC Women's League. It's also alleged that she then gifted the cars to her children. Convicted fraudster and gang leader Jermaine Prim alleges that Mackenzie and other members of his party, the PA, are proxies for the so-called Big Five drug cartel in Cape Town. He accused Mackenzie of active involvement in selling mandrax while serving in Parliament. Ramaphosa elaborates.
Well, these matters are still really going to be outlined to me more fully and properly, and whereafter I'll be able to make up my mind. So the information has been coming in drips and drabs, and as you know, in order for me to take a decision, I have to have the full information. So that will come in time. And obviously on your part, you always want things to be done quickly and yesterday.
The South African Airways Board's announced the resignation of its CEO, John Lamola. In a statement, both the board and the Transport Minister confirmed they've accepted his departure, which takes effect at the end of this month. Lamola took the helm of the national carrier in 2022, leading the airline through its post-business rescue recovery. Seppo Mungwai reports.
While the reasons for his sudden exit remain unclear, Lamola's tenure was not without friction. His appointment was previously overshadowed by allegations of improper interference involving Deputy President Paul Mashatile and Minister Grisi. However, subsequent investigation by Public Protector found that the claims to be unsubstantiated. To ensure stability, the board has appointed Matsela Sishibe, the current CEO of SAA subsidiary Air Chefs, as the acting group CEO. The airline says the recruitment process for a permanent successor will begin shortly. Tsepo Mungwai, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Labour Federation COSATU says it welcomes the revised electricity tariff relief offer by Eskom for ferrochrome producers Samancor Chrome and the Glencore Merafe Chrome venture. COSATU's parliamentary coordinator is Matthew Parks.
Once approved by NERSA, it will provide welcome relief to workers of these companies while simultaneously enabling them to reopen previously mothballed smelters. This can see the creation of 11,400 direct and over 100,000 indirect jobs along the value chain and in host communities. It's critical these remaining processes be expedited and concluded, including the immediate withdrawal of the Section 189 retrenchment notices.
National Civic Organisation Sanko's Deputy President, Chris Malemacha, says the vision of struggle icon, late former SACP leader Chris Hani, remains unfulfilled without services including water and sanitation. He was speaking at the 33rd commemoration of Hani's assassination held in Mpumalanga as part of Freedom Month activities.
A selfless leader, a kingdom of integrity, a gallant of our struggle against apartheid, a freedom fighter who taught us for Shingwe that freedom without decent shelter for South Africans, freedom is incomplete. Freedom without land in the hands of majority, freedom is incomplete. Freedom without safe drinking water, but dry taps in your heart as a symbol of water.
The US Vice President J.D. Vance is on his way to Pakistan, where he's due to start talks with Iran tomorrow. He says he's looking forward to the talks amid a tentative ceasefire agreed to this week.
Positive, we'll of course see. As the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The President has gave us some pretty clear guidelines.
The top story, President Ramaphosa says he's waiting for a solid report over alleged misconduct by two members of his cabinet, the Social Development Minister and the Sports, Arts and Culture Minister. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Goss.
In sports this hour, Pirates target Betway Premiership top spot, and Cape Town gears up as 30,000 runners hit the road this weekend, and Metula returns as South Africa's top divers converge in Boksburg for national championships. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Got some very heavy traffic around the country this afternoon, but the good news is it's really sort of centralised on some key routes. These are the ones to avoid. The N3 going south around Joburg. Big crash down by Modderfontein Road. Multiple lanes are closed. Big backlogs through to Buccleuch interchange. I just got a tweet from a motorist saying 45 minutes to an hour to get through from Buccleuch to Modderfontein, so you might want to avoid that. Marlborough Drive coming out of Sandton queuing heavily to get into the N3 south as well. The other big one is a crash on the M1 north in Pretoria by Rigel. That's pushed to queue heavy heavy right back through to Boerta Avenue today. And if you're leaving Pietermaritzburg, there's quite a backlog of traffic on the N3 South heading towards Durban. That is a broken down truck just down by Ashburton. Only one lane open to get all that weekend, pre-weekend traffic through. It's a big backlog from the bottom of the Pietermaritzburg bypass. On your way very slow towards that obstruction. And also if you're running the other way going into Pietermaritzburg, breakdown before Ashburton, or before Market Road, in fact. So from Ashburton, that's heavy as well. Still some delays coming out of Durban on the N3, Sherwood to Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 South from Gateway to Kumashi looking quite slow as well. Cape Town, a bit of volume on the N1 into town today, just sluggish through Brackenfell area, and then the N1 inbound from Sable Road towards the Kuberg interchange, quite busy, and a backlog getting into the Mitchell's Plain area, M7 South through Samora Michelle, quite slow towards the R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.1 FM in Bombela.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, welcome to the show. Never tune in late, but if you have tuned in after 5, this is the National Pulse. Great to have you connected with us. And as you know, many of the things that we do, we have a podcast put up of those. So go to the website, safm.co.za. In a moment, we'll talk about a KZN woman pleading for help after her husband died, or dies, in this case here in the Russia-Ukraine war. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about South Africa reaching the mark of 328 days without load shedding. I mean, that's like a believe it or not story, isn't it? Seems so far-fetched, but that's the reality. And the other reality is the appointment now of 2 significant members of the legal fraternity to the Constitutional Court. That's been a long delayed story, as you know. We'll talk about that as well in a moment. And I can tell you as well, if you've asked, because many have asked, who's your guest today for the Fireside Chat? Well, as part of the changes that we've made as we get into the new fiscal right now, from April onwards, no Fireside Chat. Sorry. But thanks for asking anyway. So no Fireside Chat, but a whole lot of shorter, punchier, in-the-moment conversations that we hope you're going to like. This is, after all, the National Pulse.
Kathy Mutlatana on the National Briefing.
Professor Pichana, just on this issue of our own consciousness as a society, how do you think we can go about raising it or increasing it, very briefly?
I really do believe that we need this national dialogue that doesn't seem to happen. These days, the level of trust about public institutions is way down, whether it's judges, whether it's teachers, or whether it's nurses, whether it's politicians. South Africans no longer trust public representatives or public officials.
Professor Bani Pichana.
This is Kathy Mutlatana on the National Briefing.
This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all. Under the theme, Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAFM will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Right, so to confirm, no Fireside Chat on a Friday any longer as before because of the changes. But let's then touch on an issue that is that should tug at your heart. No question about it, right? A mother from the Umzinyathi District Municipality has contacted in this case, the office of the MEC for Transport and Human Settlements. And why? To seek assistance following news of the passing away of a husband in Russia. What's the story behind this, right? With me is Indabezinhle Sibia, the spokesperson for the Department of Transport and Human Settlements in KwaZulu-Natal region. Appreciate your time and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and the listeners.
Thank you. These are the type of stories you don't want to hear, but when it happens, we need to be talking about it. What's happened here?
Well, the MEC for Transport and Human Settlements, the WhatsApp message and the voice note very late on Wednesday evening. I think it was around 10. So 11:30, quarter to 12, around there. The mother just requesting the MEC to intervene, also indicating that her husband, died unfortunately in Russia on the 28th of March, and in the voice note that she sent through, she indicated that her husband was very secretive and he actually did not disclose much about, the work that he was going to do in Russia. But obviously, today we are here in Transcorp, in the Nyati district, as we correctly pointed out. Yesterday, MEC also mandated the head of the Department of Human Settlements, Mason Billy, to lead a team to meet with the family. And, during our interaction with the wife, and other family members as part of profiling the family. The wife indicated that, her husband, fell sick, and he was diabetic. She also pointed out that, she was able to communicate with him through WhatsApp in some of the conversations that, they had. He indicated that they were under arrest because they were instructed to take the Russian citizenship, and they were being moved from one place to the other under arrest. So these are some of the issues that the wife raised today. But all in all, what we are doing as per the mandate from the MEC is to be closer to the family and assist them and bridge the gap between the family and the different tiers of government. Especially Department of International Relations and Cooperation. So this is what we are doing at the moment.
Let's just go back to what we know. I mean, can we confirm that, in fact, her husband has passed away?
Yeah, we can confirm that the husband has died and that she has been given options. Option number one is to attend a military burial in Russia. Option number two, the cremation of the deceased, that is Sise Makai, aged 44, and then an option of having his ashes repatriated. But all of that, what she showed us is that those authorities that she was communicating with indicated that she would have to pay for everything, meaning that she has to travel to Russia. You know that Russia is under strict sanctions. You cannot do any financial transaction using digital platforms. So she was then advised to go to that site, do the payment to a funeral parlor, and then have the ashes repatriated. So that is what she sent to us. So that is why the MEC guided us to move with speed, deal with the issue, bridge the gap between her as well as the Department of International Relations. So we are very grateful that the office of Clinton Manyela at the national level, obviously under the leadership of Minister Lamola, they are working with us, and the MEC Montezuma is interacting with the minister at his level. But as workers, at our level, we are obviously doing our work as guided by our secretary.
Just to conclude, then, I mean, besides the obvious sympathy with the loss of a human being, in this case, a husband, what in broad speak for the audience listening, what's the big lesson to learn from this?
Well, Well, it's a difficult one. The family is in distress, so our role at this stage is to comfort the family. We do not want to judge, the wife. We do not want to judge the 3 children that are now fatherless. All what we have to do is to comfort them, because it is something that is beyond their control. But we are obviously saying to those job seekers out there, please be careful. There should be one point of entry and one point of exit. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation, in our case, is actually one point of entry and one point of exit when it comes to some of these matters, the ambassadors, the embassies. We have around 43 to 70 diplomatic corps here in KwaZulu-Natal. MEC Monto Duma has had interactions with them in around 2024. And we want to ensure that everything that we do here in KwaZulu-Natal, it must be within the framework of the law, and that there should be no any element of resemblance of human trafficking. But we trust that the President of the country, His Excellency Ramaphosa, at his level, will be able to do what will be in the interest of the family and ensure that there is closure. That is what they have requested. And we are obviously confident that with the leadership that we have, we are going to usher in a new era for the family, and they'll be able to have closure.
Okay.
Around this matter.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for that. Idabezinhle Sibia, the spokesperson for the Department of Transport and Human Settlements in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Thanks for your time here on the National Pulse.
Spar Winner Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products. Like 2-liter Spar carbonated soft drink. Buy any 2 for 22. Save 5 Rand. Or 1.8-liter Spar ice cream. Buy any 2 for 100. Save 50 Rand. Price is valid from 8 till 21 April. Shop, swipe and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Moro, Moni, Dumela, Bonjour, Habari. You arrived in South Africa to build something better. New place, new challenges, new responsibilities. Now you can with the Mama Money bank account. Sign up easily using any passport or asylum document. Get paid into your own account, up to 100,000 a month. You can send money home from wherever you are, because this is more than money. It's progress. Buy your Mama Money card today at Pick n Pay or a Mama Money agent. Mama Money, now you can.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just 1 rand. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Right, so later on we're going to talk about the, what seemed to be a much delayed appointment of 2 key members to the Constitutional Court. So now we have that. We'll talk about that around 5:45, right? Don't miss that. What about this year? And this sounds so bizarre, but it's true. 328 days South Africa marking without load shedding. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I want to pick out some of your thoughts in the meantime. And here's some feedback.
Hello, SAFM and listeners. This is Lofo from Verulam. You know what's going to happen in this country? This country is going to burn. As the elections around the corner, we've just seen MEC in the Johannesburg. MEC and hopefully KZN will be having another MEC. And then SACP and ANC, we're going to have an MEC for SACP. Watch the space.
Watch the space is what you say. There's another political gathering taking place this weekend, right?
Hi, Ashraf. The delegates who are coming from the Western Cape are going to elect their own leaders in the, for this conference for tomorrow and Sunday. And then the delegate of the Gauteng, they are going to have a few delegates who can appoint or elect their own leaders. Therefore, it means that you cannot expect many black leaders in top, because most of the people who are coming from the Eastern Cape are colored and white. My name is Les.
Okay, interesting analogy. See if anybody agrees with you. What about your history?
Ashraf Sonia from Centurion. Thanks for a great show as usual. I don't think we need to debate this history thing or complicate it too much. It's quite an easy thing. So every country needs to know where it comes from, what influenced it to where it is today, and the influences that's going to move it forward. So keep it simple. Obviously, we came from the Van Riebeeks and that whole story. Bringing the African element into that, teach it to the kids till they're just 16, and then say to them, if you guys want to carry on further with us, you may. Thanks for a great show.
Thank you. You see, but that's the point. The history of the country didn't start with Jan van Riebeeck. I'm just making the point, okay? But broad point, I agree with you. You need to cover the issues that impacted the country. That's our history. Then the issues globally that also impacted our country. And then the issues globally that impacts the globe that concerns our country anyway. Like the United Nations. You can't ignore the United Nations. You just absolutely can't, no matter what you think about it. Right, let's talk about no impact, load shedding, no load shedding after this.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, you've heard the president has been late in getting to the ANC NEC meeting because he's been busy with other things. A different sort of power, by the way. Talk about holding on to power. The Kusile power station in Mpumalanga today, a significant moment there, receiving a briefing. The president received a briefing that the Kusile itself has now reached full capacity. And linked to that is that it is almost a year, 328 days now, South Africa without load shedding. Katlego Lehori has been covering the story on behalf of SABC. Katlego, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and hello to the SAFM family.
Okay, you get covering stories of bad news and good news stories. This will fall into the good news category, right?
Yeah, this time around it was a good news story as we see the president spending most of the day at the Kusile power plant in Mpumalanga.
Okay. Tell me more about it. I mean, in terms of the visit, what was observed, and that point that Kusile is now on, full capacity.
So this is one of Eskom's key facilities, and it was actually one of the main players when we were at the height of load shedding. At some point, there was even a fire on the ground, something that worried and gripped the nation into load shedding. So there's been a lot of work that's been done there under Minister Hosienso Ramokgopa's Energy Action Plan. And today he took the president on a walkabout, just basically patting himself on the shoulder and alongside the executive of Eskom on the ground for a job well done. The stability on the ground, 6 of the units are now synchronized, so they are giving us electricity. We are told that that electricity would be about 4,800 megawatts that is pumped into the grid only from Kusile alone. So it's a good news story because also this is one of the second largest power plant on the continent. So we see really a lot of investments going into ensuring that the stability is there. And we see the president today, even he was taken on a walkabout so they can show him the facility, the work that has been done, the boots on the ground. And at some point, he even ended up addressing all of the staff. So there are about 1,600 of the staff of Kusile, just more or less, just letting them in on how proud government is of the work that they've been doing in stabilizing the grid. But also at the same time, there's a lot of investor confidence now. We are told now that there is energy supply. We are about 365 days of no load shedding. And the president also more or less lauding the Eskom management for keeping the lights on, saying that we wouldn't want to go back to those days of load shedding. That was a devastating moment for the country.
Yeah. I suppose, and look, it's been said before from the Minister of Minister of Electricity to the ESCOM chair, Mteto Nyati, and others too, right? But just to reiterate the point, what are they saying? Why have they got it right when we've struggled with it of keeping the lights on for so many years before that?
Remember that when we had load shedding, the president had to act fast, and in him acting fast is when he appointed Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa to, solely lead the electricity part of governance. So he's saying that has actually really led to green shoots that would be seen from ESCOM as well, as we see the entity turning around and it now being profitable. But he's saying that it's the work of Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, a stable board on the ground of ESCOM, but also, the men and women on the ground that day in and day out, even when the morale was low, they kept on showing up. So today he was giving them their flowers, just to say that we appreciate the work that you do or that you have done over time. Again, we had this energy action plan. So that was some sort of a blueprint of how we're going to approach these turning around and this issue of, making sure that load shedding becomes a thing of the past. And that energy action plan had timelines, and those timelines were clear to say that by this time we need to ensure that these, power station is up. We need to ensure that we feel critical positions within some of these plants, but at the same time, even just saying that there have been so much of a commitment after the installment of Dan Marokane as the new CEO, taking over from Andre de Ruyter. So there have been a lot of shifts, at ESCOM, hence we find ourselves here today. So he's saying it's a number of things, but most of it would be from the leadership that was under the guise of Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, Mteto Nyati as the board chair, but also the executive from various of the components of ESCOM. And remember that we are now dealing with ESCOM that has been separated into 3 entities. So that as well has seen a greater focus where generation is concerned, where distribution is concerned, and they're all just looking to ensure that transmission as well as the country moves to open up the energy space, that there is stability, and today even seeking to assure the men and the women on the ground that ESCOM remains the main supplier of electricity in the country amid some of these developments of roping in the private sector. But a mixture of things that have led us to where we are today, Ashraf.
Okay, just to end with very briefly, did anyone, from the president, whoever else was there, did they come close to suggesting that as they laud their success, what could still go wrong?
More or less, I think they are just looking at ensuring that they keep up with the work, because just now that we are off load shedding, we're still dealing with an issue of load reduction, where they've given themselves timelines. The electricity is still high. The price of electricity in the country is still high. So they're inundated with ensuring that as we push to keep the lights on, all of these other issues as well, people don't find themselves extremely stranded because of an economy that has not moved, has moved stagnantly, but at the same time, the electricity supply that would not be stable and taking away from their day-to-day operations. So a number of commitments as well in ensuring that they will keep on with the work. And Dan Marokane even, seeking to assure the president that the work does not stop. It continues in ensuring that at least we continue to be the best, because, when you look at the history of ESCOM, it is one of the best in the world. And all of these issues that have been happening there, it reminded us of state capture, corruption, and the likes. It's saying that we wouldn't want to go back there. So most of them know what went wrong, and they're not willing to actually see the country, thrusted into the dark once again, Ashraf.
And bottom line, we don't want to go back there either. Appreciate your time, Katlego Lehori, SABC News reporter, covering the story of, hey, the lights are on. 328 days now without load shedding. News headlines, here's Greg House.
A quick look at the headlines. The DA says it'll use its federal Congress this weekend to sharpen its policy position with the GNU. President Ramaphosa says he's waiting for a more solid report over alleged misconduct by 2 members of his cabinet. And the US Vice President J.D. Vance is on his way to Pakistan, where he's due to start talks with Iran tomorrow. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. We bring good news that the big crash on the N3 South in Joburg at Modderfontein Road has been cleared to the side. All lanes are open. There is a backlog to clear through from Buccleuch, and it stays busy all the way down to around about the Heldenace interchange. Just the pressure of traffic because it was so enormous. It was a queue that extended for about an hour earlier to get from Buccleuch to Modderfontein, and that's just all been released. So the route is busy, but no major obstructions. If you're heading home to Lenasia or Protea Glen, there's a backlog on the N12, just moving through the Golden Highway, except down towards the Klipspruit Valley off-ramp. That's quite a heavy delay. And the crash on Pretoria's N1 North at Rigel has also been moved to the left shoulder, but there's a backlog of Friday afternoon traffic to clear past that one from as far back as Boerta Avenue. Durban, N2 South on the brakes and in the low gears today between Umgeni Road and Spaghetti Junction. There's also been some problems coming out of Pietermaritzburg and getting into Pietermaritzburg. A breakdown at Ashburton on your way to Durban has forced traffic right back to the Pietermaritzburg bypass. That's heavy. And a breakdown for Market Road causing a delay from Ashburton heading up into Pietermaritzburg. So really heavy both sides there. Cape Town today, N2 out of town, sluggish through Hospital Bend, out as far as Bunga Avenue. Got the normal sort of backlogs heading through Khayelitsha on the N2. And if you're on the N1 inbound, a little bit slow today from Brackenfell or through Brackenfell area. Once you get to the R300, it eases up. The next queue at Cape Town is the M1 approaching the Kuberg interchange. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right, as far as rivalries go to me in South Africa right now in football, it's Orlando Pirates, it's Mamelodi Sundowns. Do you have a pirate story, right?
Yes, Orlando Pirates takes on Richards Bay FC at Mhlatuse Sports Complex tonight with an opportunity to return to the summit of the log, while Mamelodi Sundowns are away on CAF duty. And head coach Abdeslam Mwadu has stressed that professional standards at Pirates is a non-negotiable.
It's important for the guys to see that what they are working, what we demand the week, it's working on the pitch. You know, they are seeing that what they are doing, they can see it on the pitch. So it gives them trust to continue to work every day and to apply themselves. So for them it's good, but for us as well, it's important because you know, sometimes there are some players. You know, if you work all the week, there is a big demand, lot of intensity, and they don't see the benefit of the work on the game. And I think even as a coach, you lost the trust. And when you lost the trust, when you lost the confidence of the players, I think it's over for you. You need to take your luggage and...
Elsewhere, the Premier League returns this weekend after a 3-week break, and the action could have a big impact on title race, European qualification, and also relegation battle. At the top, Arsenal are still in control of the title race. Mikel Arteta's side can move 12 points clear if they beat Bournemouth at home. And despite recent cup disappointments, the Gunners remain favourites to win their first league title in over 2 decades. However, Manchester City are close behind, finding form at the right time. Pep Guardiola's team travel to face Chelsea and will be ready to take advantage of any slips from Arsenal, especially with a crucial clash between the two sides coming up next week. Meanwhile, Liverpool are under pressure. Manager Arne Slot says that the team is in survival mode. This is after a poor run of results. They face Fulham at Anfield, knowing another defeat could damage their hopes of qualifying for the Champions League. At the bottom of the table, the spotlight is on Tottenham Hotspur, who are fighting to avoid relegation. And new coach Roberto De Zerbi takes charge for the first time this weekend, with Spurs desperate for a turnaround after a winless run in 2026. Then in athletics, more than 30,000 runners are expected to hit the road in a Two Oceans Marathon this weekend in Cape Town. Of things.
Okay, to me, of course, delivering sport remotely today, and as you can pick up, there's just a bad network, so we're missing out on the action that she's talking about, unfortunately. But to me, I certainly hope you have a great weekend and you have success with your teams, because you all have teams that we're back I wonder who's the big team that you're backing this weekend, right? Still to come is the markets after this.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And Jimmy, as we get to the weekend, what are those facts and figures?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. We're closing out the weekend in positive territory on the part of the JSE. Local markets had a green day. Largely all equity markets had a green day, barring the ASX in Sydney. That was down about 0.05%. The Dow Jones is currently the only market in the US that's in the red. The Nasdaq is up about 0.75%. The S&P up about 0.25%. The FTSE in London finished flat. The DAX in Germany and the CAC 40 in France each up 0.33%. But the biggest winner on the day's trade is the Nikkei in Tokyo. That was up 1.8%. Local markets couldn't match that, but they got a lot better than what we'd seen in some of the other markets. Top 40 up 0.69%, as was the all-share. The resource stocks up 0.4%, industrial 0.8%, and financial stocks 0.89% to the green. Commodity prices still in the green by and large. The Brent crude price still around that $95 a barrel level, floating dangerously close to that $100 a barrel level. Platinum pricing above $2,000 a fine ounce, palladium above 1,500, but gold has not yet been able to hold above 4,008. It's currently at $4,774 a fine ounce. Going into next week, we'll see how the Middle East negotiations go. We know that, as you heard in the news, Deputy President of the United States is headed to the Middle East to hopefully see if we can get these tensions to simmer down. Markets at the moment are still hopeful of that, and that's, I suppose, why the Brent crude price is still below $100 a barrel. We'll keep an eye on these movements going into next week, and if anything does change, we will definitely let everybody know. But for now, we're going to the weekend with a slightly firmer rand at 16 rand and 37 cents against the US dollar, and we will hopefully come into next week closer to 16 rand than to 16.50. Back to you, Ashraf.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. Have a great weekend. That's all I can say, Jimmy, and we'll connect on Monday. Thank you.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
And talking about talking, I see John Carricker's in the house, which means he's going to talk to you after 6, so stay tuned for that, right? But let's get to you. I don't know, well, what do you want to get off your chest? Jeffrey in Cape Town, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, go for it, Jeffrey.
Good day, SA listeners. Yeah, I want to talk about the president, where everybody is so unhappy. The thieves who stole from him. Firstly, was said that money was 400 million. And when the investigation was done, it was now 480,000 rands. Those thieves could have easily assassinate my president. And to me, to stand with the thieves like this, then I think I don't know how to describe it even.
But when you say stand with thieves, what do you mean? I'm missing something here.
Yeah, they've stolen from his money. They steal his money. So he must do nothing, he must just laugh. That is what I can't understand. So if somebody come in my house, he break in I give him a place to stay, you want to work, especially those are foreign nationals. He gives them a work. Remember, the president also gives over 1 million people work. He's a businessman.
Yeah, but you're digressing. Get to the issue. What's your bottom line here?
The issue here is you must call those guys thieves, not just put the roses on them. That is what I want the nation must call them. That is their names. Because they stole from the president.
Okay, point made. Got that, Jeffrey. Jeffrey making his point. Happy in Nelspruit. Hi, Happy. Happy, you there? Are you happy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go for it, Happy.
Yeah, Ashraf, I want to talk about the issue of South Africans being xenophobic.
Yeah, go for it.
This issue is going to go a long way if our leaders are not taking this serious. They keep on duck and diving and they are not attending to this issue. We are staying at the locations. We are seeing exactly what these foreigners are doing, specifically the Nigerians. They are taking our younger sisters, our younger brothers, they're feeding them drugs, they're taking our younger sisters, they use them in their brothels,
These guys are selling drugs. They are killers. They stealing cars. They clone cars. They do a lot of things. But because our leaders are staying in the suburbs in areas where it's extremely secured, they are not seeing these things. That is why when we talk about these Nigerians that we need them out of our country, they think we are xenophobic. But it's because we are not getting security enough against these people. They are not here to serve the purpose of trying to live with us. But as long as they make money and something goes into their pocket, they are happy. That's all they want.
But if your point is right, and you can't speak on behalf of a whole nation of people of Nigerians, so there could be people of Nigeria extraction, I understand, who may be committing a crime, then what about those who should be keeping them in check? Doesn't this speak very poorly of Home Affairs in terms of their checks and balances, and then policing? Isn't that the area we need to fix?
Yes, I agree with that. It's a very big loophole. Now that they have already passed the gate of our port, they are now inside our country, but they are doing as they are pleased. I just want to mention about just Nelspruit. There's a street called Anderson Street. We've got a very big police station across.
Very quickly.
They are seeing what is happening there, but they are not doing anything about it. And then now, when as communities we're going to stand up and start doing those things on our own, we will be labeled as xenophobic. And once you whistle blowing, you get killed. That's the problem.
That we know. Happy, thank you for that call. Maybe not a very happy call, but Happy's made his point. Thank you for that. And you can add to that too, right? Here's another about, well, it's a Nigerian link too.
Hi Ashraf, hi SAFM listeners. I am a Nigerian living in South Africa, and regarding the Igbo coronation in the Eastern Cape, I 100% agree with your previous caller who said it's disrespectful, regardless of the context of what the coronation was, whether it was a king or a community leader, regardless of. It should have been handled better. It is disrespectful. No matter how long a Nigerian has been in this country, we are still guests here, and we should abide by the rules and regulations of the country. DJ Cape Town, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you may have a point that, you do have to fit into the rules and the norms of any country that you go to, right? Isn't it? True, yeah? Okay, what about, talking about rules, there's 2 additions to the Constitutional Court, South Africa's apex court, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
So, this has been a long delayed story, I would think, the appointment of 2 people to the Con Court. I think recommendations were made, and there were arguments a few months ago. That's like, what is going on here? It's just taken far too long. So finally, President Ramaphosa has appointed Justice Nambita, Christabel Dambuza Mayosi, and Justice Catherine Mary Savage to the Constitutional Court. So it'll be effective from the 1st of May. And this, as I alluded to, consultation with the Chief Justice, Mandisa Maya as well, and political party leaders, many of them forming part of the Judicial Services Commission, if I'm not mistaken. Let's understand how significant is this. The numbers are significant too. With me is Imekazeli Benjamin, who's a legal researcher at Judges Matter. Good to connect with you as always on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So firstly, finally, isn't it?
Yes, finally. I think the last time you and I spoke, it was already counting down to 6 months. And in fact, it is almost just over 180 days since the interviews happened and the appointments have been made. And so we are really grateful that the appointments have been made, because for the first time in a decade, we will have a full complement of permanent judges on the Constitutional Court. We do still hope that the President will explain what caused the delay and what steps is he taking to prevent this kind of delay from happening in future. Because I can tell you now, Ashraf, in the next 4 years, there will be judges who leave, and we can't wait for 6 months for the President to make appointments.
Okay, so you're in fact saying that the President at this point in time has not given an explanation. Is that normal, that when the appointments are finally made, an explanation is actually given?
No, the president does not give an explanation ordinarily, and in fact, there's no legal obligation for him to give an explanation. But what we're saying is that the Constitution required him to act without unreasonable delay. And now he's taken quite a long time, and in fact, it is the longest time in democratic history. And recognizing that delay, I think he owes South Africans an explanation on why he took so long, but more importantly, what steps he's taking to prevent such a delay from happening in future.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's become the side issue because of the delay. What about the actual appointments? Who are they?
Well, the appointments are really two excellent judges. Both Justice Dambuza and Justice Savage have a long experience as lawyers, and Justice Dambuza has 21 years, in fact, in the judiciary. And since 2015, she's been a justice of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which is the second highest court in South Africa. And so she brings a wealth of experience as a judge, which is really necessary at the Constitutional Court. She's also a bit of an academic. She's always kept one foot in the academic world. She's a visiting law professor at Rhodes University. She's the chair of the Council of Mandela University, and so she brings also an academic mind. For Justice Savage, she is globally recognized as one of the leading labor lawyers. So it's not only in South Africa, but also globally. In fact, a couple of months ago, she was elected as the president of the United Nations Appeal Tribunal. So over 100 members of the UN had to vote for her, and she's the first South African judge actually to hold this position of the UN Appeal Tribunal. And the UN Appeal Tribunal is essentially a world court that is dealing with labor-related issues within the United Nations system. So she is a globally recognized expert on labor law.
So do I take it then, in fact, in both cases, that the credentials are impeccable?
Yes, it's really impeccable credentials, and it is two exceptional judges who've proven themselves in the judiciary and in the legal sphere generally. But I think the other advantage that they both have is that they've been acting as justices of the Constitutional Court in the last couple of months, and so when they start on the 1st of May, they will essentially be hitting the ground running. So that is also something that will be good for the Constitutional Court as an institution.
And just to confirm then, what's the numbers like in terms of how many judges are appointed to the ConCourt? Because I'm asking that specifically because I understand the appointment of these two judges, two women judges, tips the balance, which is quite significant.
Yes, so there are 11 justices of the Constitutional Court, and as of, I think, the 1st of May 2026, it will be 6 of that 11 will be women. And that is also historically significant because it is the first time that in the Constitutional Court there will be a majority of women judges. It also is symbolic in that it puts South Africa as one of the few countries in the world, less than 5, that have a majority at the apex court level. So it is symbolically significant because of that. And of course, because of the strides that women have taken in the legal profession and in the judiciary in particular. I mean, if you think back in 1994, there were only two judges out of the more than 100 judges in the country. And the fact that today we are saying there is a majority at the Constitutional Court is something that is significant in our history as a country.
And just maybe a last thought about the role of the ConCourt, right, of the Constitutional Court, meaning, explain just as an explainer, what does it actually do, number one? But the second part is when we talk about, the politics of South Africa and we talk about the independence of the judiciary and this is a constitutional democracy, the role of the ConCourt then comes to the fore. Do I take it that by and large, of all the different institutions that we have, that the ConCourt is one that can be put up there admirably as an institution that's really doing its job?
Look, the Constitutional Court has a number of very important responsibilities. Number one, it is the highest court in the country, and it is the final word on the law. And so that is its primary responsibility, that it interprets the law, and all other courts follow what the Constitutional Court says. But there are also certain specific responsibilities that are given in terms of the Constitution that are given to the Constitutional Court. Number one, only the Constitutional Court can confirm the unconstitutionality of an act of parliament. They are the only ones who can say whether the president has violated the constitution. So they declare a violation of the constitution by the president and the executive, and they also are the ones who can also declare parliament's conduct to be unconstitutional. So they do play that role, and they, in fact, since 1994, when the court was established, the Constitutional Court has earned a global reputation for its judicial excellence.
Let's leave it at that on the global reputation. I think that's wonderful. Thanks for your time, Mbekiseli Benjamin. Appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
Spar Winner Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products. Like 4 kg Spar IQF chicken mixed portions for $169.99, save 30 Rand. 2 litre Spar carbonated soft drink, buy any 2 for 22, save 5 Rand. Price is valid from 8 till 21 April. Shop, swipe and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Would you like to comment on the two justices now appointed to the Constitutional Court? You can certainly do so, Ryan. Comments about load shedding.
Good evening, Ashraf. In the area of Nongoma, there is still load shedding 2 times in a week, 4 hours each session. We still have a problem with load shedding or load reduction. I don't know which one it is. It's still happening. And Kanyiso from Nongoma.
Thank you. Isn't it load reduction is like the softer way, the more palatable way of describing it, is it?
Good morning, Ashraf. Good morning, SA listeners. We are talking about history, but people who want the history enforced, they are the very people who are talking English to their children and not teaching them their native, the indigenous language. So now history can be revisited, but we must also teach our own children our own history. And condolences to the lady that the husband passed away in Russia. Hopefully he gets repatriated. And I believe that if the SACP will pull out from the ANC will lose.
There we are. A report on the day. A very interesting summary. We should do that again with you. Thank you so much for that. And the home language is interesting too.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I heard the president is going to sign the law that will help to remedy this thing of foreigners or people taking our jobs or advantage on us and all of these things. But when you check, the very same people are the one who are breaking this law. Why don't we just say foreign national that didn't even apply for visa or something to be in the country must be deported, and everyone actually, because they came in, they buy our IDs and passport, they must go away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that point made. Right, let's get to Marvelous. What a name. Marvelous, hi.
Yes, hi Ashraf, how are you?
Okay, I remember Marvelous Marvin Hagler, but that's a boxer, right? Yeah, go for it.
All right, before I want to talk about xenophobic. Before I go there, I want to say congratulations to you and all the ladies, Pambili Abafazi, for SFM management, for giving more women prime time slots.
Well, it is to management. I mean, it's their decision, right? I mean, I'd like to think that I'm part of the decision-making process, but not. Presenters are presenters, and they make so. Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's significant changes, as you know, with Tulas leaving in the morning, and you've got Kathy in the morning now there, and you've got Joanne, and you've got Sakina following, and Bridget after that. So there's like 4 people, and then I follow the women. So there we are. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Ashraf, this thing of being called xenophobic because we are fighting for our country, I would like to agree or share the same sentiments as the other caller who called in and said, we are the people on the ground. I'm here in Durban. There's a place called Point next to South Beach. You can't walk there. The last time I walked there, I came back home without shoes, cell phone, my wallet, and my bag. You get robbed on daylight robbery, and then foreigners will come running, acting like they are helping you while they are behind all these robberies. Guys, this thing of saying that our leaders, they went to their countries during apartheid time, but they were not breaking the law. They were in hiding. There's a difference between a person who is in hiding than a person who is doing as they please. If you go to South Beach Point, it's a different country. It's like a Nigerian city or some sort. But our government is not doing anything. And during now, because it's election time, they will start saying, Abahambe, Abahambe. We are not children. We are not fools. Okay. One thing that government must change now, this thing of allowing SA nationals to marry foreign nationals, because they get paid money to do that. Once they got permits to be in South Africa, they sell drugs, human trafficking, and so on.
Yeah, but you can't tell a person who they can't marry a person from another country. I mean, like, just think about that. You know, even Mandela did that. Got married to Graça Machel. I mean, like, really. Love is love. Seriously. I'm not talking about planned things for manipulation, but get that point. Okay, marvelous. Have a great weekend. Thanks for that input and for the kind words, I think. Noted to SAFM management.
Ashraf and the listeners, now that you're talking about this education thing, I'm so very interested in that. And I've also done my research to find out exactly how is it aligned, because at the end of the day, there's something wrong about the current stuff by saying people have passed with the bachelor's entry and whatsoever that is there. But the latest one, I'm telling you, I have found so many loopholes on my research that I have done. So I'll be glad if they can also just contact me. It's Ntombi speaking from University of Limpopo. Thank you.
Okay, made your pitch. Got that, right? Yeah, this is an important one too.
Hi, Ashraf. I hope you're right. All is here in the Eastern Cape. No, it's plain and simple. ANC has lost confidence in its own leaders. They have lost confidence on themselves. They have no confidence. It makes no difference for them to go and headhunt somebody who is going to replace a broken system without fixing it. They need to fix the system, then that will restore confidence in them. Otherwise, they have no confidence in themselves. Nobody's going to have confidence, whether they go and bring Motsepe or whoever they are speculating about.
Okay, ANC has lost confidence in the ANC. Do you think that's true? I mean, also from a South African perspective, there's no doubt there's lots of concerns about the ANC, but surely can we give them some credit at least? Let me end with this because it links to the Tripartite Alliance.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Gade and the whole team of producers behind you. My name is Mpipo Mpiren from Limpopo Mkumbane village. This is a difficult week for ANC and SACP as partners. If they decide to apart, it will be the end of those two parties. ANC will go below 30% of votes, and SACP will be nowhere to be found. Not to know that SACP did not win any one out of all by-elections. In other words, they were below 1% of votes. Come 2029, ANC will be worse, let alone the SACP. They will be sitting on minus 1% of votes. Liberal movements throughout the world are irrelevant. They do not fulfill their promises to the electorate. Once they gain power, they still till the pot is empty. Poverty is getting worse every day, whilst they are getting rich every day. Thank you so much. I am Mpipo Mpireni, Limpopo Mkumbane village.
There's your commentary for the entire week, I would think. I don't know whether everyone's going to agree with you. Does it always happen with that to revolutionary parties? They also bring you freedom too. Anyway, hold on to that thought. Think about it. It's the weekend, so I'm done. Really, for myself and the team, and to be saying as well as Keith, thanks for joining us. And we'll do it Monday, right? So set your alarms 3 to 6 right now. John Carrick is in house, so he comes on after the news at 6, which is with Greg Hose.